We're still waiting for a few more key resource persons to join us, so we'll start in about 5 minutes. Morning, everyone. I request everyone to take their respective seats. Ganang umaga po sa lahat. This hearing is now called to order. And let me acknowledge the presence of our respected senators, Senator Pia Cayetano, Senator Amy Marcos, Senator Francis Tolentino, Senator Nancy Binay, and I think he just went out for a while, Senator Rolando De La Rosa is also here with us this morning. Let me direct the committee secretary to acknowledge our resource persons this morning.
Thank you, sir. From the Commission on Higher Education, Dr. Maria Teresita M. Semana. From the Department of National Defense, Attorney Norman Danoy. Commodore Ramil Roberto Enriquez, OJ9. Morning, sir. Brigadier General Serme Ayuya, TJAC, AFP. Morning, sir. Major General Dante Hidalgo, Commander Naval Reserve Command. Good morning, sir. Colonel Ferdinand Fraginal, Philippine Navy Commander. Rear Admiral Romel Jude Ong, Vice Commander, Philippine Navy. Mr. Guido Alfredo A. Delgado, from the UP Vanguard. Morning, sir. Attorney Gilbert Raymond Reyes, from UP Vanguard. Mr. Astrolito Romulo del Castillo. Morning, sir. Mr. Mark Javier, former National Commander, Vanguard. Attorney Mark Abelo from the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority. Father Joel Tabora from Cocopea. Morning po. Attorney Luz Biminda Rosales from PASOK, Philippine Association of State Universities and Colleges. And Mr. Willie Rodriguez, President, PTA National Philippines. Gandang umaga po. Sir.
Thank you, Comsec. Today we'll be tackling 8 different ROTC bills. There are 8 different ROTC bills that were filed here in the Senate. One by this representation, the other one by Senator Manny Pacquiao, Senator Francis Tolentino, Senator Roland De La Rosa, Senator Amy Marcos, Senator Lito Lapid, Senator Pia Cayetano, Senator Richard Gordon. And I understand in the lower house, there were also 6 different ROTC bills that were filed. And as I understand it correctly also, they started hearing on this 16 ROTC bills that were filed in the lower house. Just to give everyone a recap, this is actually the 3rd hearing of this ROTC proposal, or revival of the ROTC proposal. In the 17th Congress, we had 2 hearings and 1 technical working group. We actually ironed out a lot of the details during those 2 hearings and 1 technical working group. And since we have new members who joined us here in the 18th Congress, we deemed it necessary to hear it once again to get the views of the new members of the Senate in this very important measure. And we also want to hear from the different stakeholders as to their opinion on this revival of the ROTC in our senior high schools. I understand also that in the Armed Forces of the Philippines, there's also a new J9 who will be implementing this proposal. That's in the new J9 is Colonel Enriquez, sir, and unfortunately, DepEd, who is also a very important stakeholder, is not yet here. So with that, we will ask the Department of National Defense, who is also the co-implementer of this revival of the ROTC, to proceed with their presentation. What we want is to hear the rationale on why there is now a new policy on reinstating or reviving the ROTC in our senior high schools. And we also want to hear the importance of this revival. So we turn over the mic to Attorney Danoy of the Department of National Defense.
Mr. Chair, before we proceed,
Yes.
may I just make a statement? Just to clarify, my bill is not an ROTC bill. In fact, my bill is called the Youth Patriotism and Bayanihan Act, because I do not feel that the reserved officer training is the most appropriate. But I will reserve my comments, and I have a very open mind to listen to our resource persons. But just to clarify that matter.
Thank you,
Thank
Senator Cayetano. And
Yes, Mr. Chair, to echo the sentiments of Senator Cayetano, may I also put on record that mine is not an ROTC bill either. It's a citizen service program that extends from elementary through the tertiary levels, and I reserve the right to explain further later. Thank you very much for your forbearance.
Thank you very much, Senator Marcos. I do apologize for lumping the two proposals to a revival of an ROTC concept. With that, we will also want to hear from our resource persons their respective opinions regarding the proposals of Senator Marcos and Senator Cayetano, considering that this is a different concept from the revival of ROTC in our high schools, and we want to go deeper into the concepts that the two senators set forth in this committee. So with that, with the permission of the...
One last point, just clarification. We never had ROTC in high school. What we had is CAT, no? And maybe the discussion can include a history, because I myself, it was an obligatory course, so I took CAT, and I couldn't even remember what the A was. So we had to research, and A was civilian army ba? Citizen army. But then it was changed to citizen advancement. So kaya it would be good for all of them to educate us on ano ba talaga yung ginawa ko. And for the record, I enjoyed my CAT. I enjoyed it. Baka sabihin nyo, bias ako. I'm biased because I enjoyed it. But later on, I will give my comments.
Any opening statements from our members? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I would just like to present my bill, being that I have to go back to the province soon. It's Senate Bill 413. It defines a two-pronged approach to, firstly, our issue of fostering nationalism in the youth. So if you will notice, there is an effort to have citizenship training not only in secondary or tertiary, but as early as elementary. We want to instill the spirit of bayanihan and community service as early as possible, and that it should be deeply and thoroughly embedded in the educational system, focusing at these earlier years on community service, disaster preparedness, and environmental protection. As Senator Cayetano mentioned earlier, this refers in large part to the citizen or ECAT or CAT training that we are familiar with. But we will expand this to the elementary level. The second approach would be on the tertiary level. I present the citizen service as an option to ROTC. However, aggressively incentivizing for the first time ROTC as an option. For those who would determine to join the ROTC, I provide health and life insurance, access to the Armed Forces facilities and commissary, as well as stipends for its officers. I know that there is a lagging number in the recruitment, and therefore this is our solution. I would like to enjoin the committee as well to observe the UN resolutions to which the Philippines is a party to. And they are resolutions 1260, 1261, and others referring to the rights of a child and children in armed conflict that prohibit in any way recruitment and training of those under the age of 18. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Marcos. With the indulgence of the members of this committee, we turn over the microphone to Attorney Daanoy of the DND. Since the DND and the DepEd are jointly proposing this measure or this policy, we want to also hear from the Department of Education their comment on the proposals. Attorney Daanoy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On behalf of the Secretary of National Defense, who wants to extend his greetings and felicitations to the honorable members of this committee. Mr. Chair, the Department of National Defense has received 5 Senate bills. Senate bills number 177, 191, 212, 227, and 413. And I would like to manifest on record that the Department of National Defense is very happy to receive these Senate bills, which supports the establishment of ROTC in grades 11 and 12, which is also similar or identical to the 13 House bills now pending in the House of Representatives, which we have deliberated last August 20, and we are very happy with that, honorable members of this committee. Why grades 11 and 12? Why grades 11 and 12? We have conducted several discussions on this in the Department of National Defense, attended by high-level discussions and representations from different schools, colleges, National Defense College of the Philippines, the ROTC Associations of the Philippines, and other agencies of the government like the CHED and the DepEd. Why grades 11 and 12? The assessment of the Department of National Defense, honorable members of this committee, is that out of 10 graduates from elementary to pupunta sa college, only 2 or 3 can proceed to college. So we cannot cover the 7 or 8. So the assessment of the Defense Department that we have to train this. Kaya ang sabi ni Presidente, baka yung 7 na 8 na yan, mamundok pa yan, o kung saan pupunta yan, o gagawa na. So we have to consider that although the ROTC was before in the college, so it is now the determination of the Defense Department and DepEd that the ROTC should be in grades 11 and 12. So far as the stakeholders and government agencies, etc., we have already resolved this issue, and we consider that grades 11 is the best period for our youth to be trained for nation building, nationalism, patriotism, love of country, and future defenders of the country.
Good gentleman. I think you should stress senior high school.
Senior high school, yes, because of the passing of the issuance of the Basic Enhancement Education Act, or the K-12, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, the Department of Foreign Affairs, the Department of Justice, the Office of the Solicitor General, and of course the Department of National Defense has already determined and studied this, that the recruitment, that the ROTC program in grades 11 and 12 is not in conflict with international law, not in conflict with the UN Convention Against Protection for Children, not in conflict with at the same time with the optional protocol. Mr. Chair, the UN Convention for the Rights of the Children is a convention agreed by treaties, by state parties. The states agreed that they will not recruit for their armed forces below 18 years old. The Philippines acceded to this international law. We will not recruit below 18 years old for our armed forces, except, so merong declarations and reservations ang Republic of the Philippines, except for training as students or cadets. So ang ibig sabihin yan, the armed forces of the Philippines can even recruit for their armed forces of the Philippines even below 18 for purposes only of training as cadets. But it cannot be recruited or called to active service until that student reaches the age of 18 years old. So wala hong conflict dito. Why we have that reservation submitted in the United Nations? Because of the Philippine Military Academy. Because we have cadets in the academy, 17 years old do ang admission sa kadete sa PMA. So, but because of 4 years training in the academy, pagpasok ka 17, of course, mag-i-18 siya, pwede na siya mag-take ng oath niya as an officer of the armed forces. Yan ang exception. That's why the Defense Department before had made representation nga pwede ho tayo mag-recruit sa armed forces of the Philippines even below 18, provided for as a student or training purposes. Now, Mr. Chair, to make it clear, itong proposed ROTC bill natin is not, I repeat, to make it clear, is not a recruitment for the armed forces of the Philippines. Itong ROTC bill natin. Why? Because recruitment in the armed forces of the Philippines is still voluntary. Kahit mag-graduate ka ng ROTC, kahit ang pangalan mo nandiyan sa reserve, still, recruitment in the armed forces of the Philippines, to make it clear, is still voluntary. Hindi ho yan nga sinasabi, nandun kami, makakuha ng pangalan ng mga anak namin. No, it's not. It's still voluntary. Kung ayaw mo pumasok, hindi ka pwede pilitin. So, we have to make these things clear, ano? Okay, Mr. Chair, so far, this has been discussed thoroughly during the previous Senate. We are facing the same discussions, the same problem, the same issues, and it so happens that hindi naabutan na ng last deliberations of this August body, the certification of the President making this bill as urgent administration bill, medyo na late na, so hindi na naabutan ng Senate. But during the previous deliberations sa House, Mr. Chair, just to make it one, itong mga pending bills natin, halos pari-pariho na sa House at saka sa Senate, almost identical na ang situation, ang mga provisions. Except that we provided some gender-sensitive provisions and then grievance mechanism procedure. Kasi yun ang problem ng una ng mga kadete, if they have some complaints against sa instructors or sa trainers, hindi nila alam kung saan pupunta. This time, we inserted a provision to see to it that any complaints from cadets can be acted upon, and if the instructors or the military instructors is something committed some demeanors or misdemeanors in the conduct of the training, we will see to it that court-martial, or he will be placed under court-martial or efficiency and separation board for administrative cases. So ito ay duly protected yung mga kadete natin in the future once nga this bill will be passed into law. So, Mr. Chair, in behalf of the Secretary of National Defense, we hope that the committee should deliberate this as the earliest possible time in light of the prevailing situation now na yung mga youth natin ay naging victims na ng mga recruitment. So right now, in the high school level pa lang, kung well-prepared na sila going to the college, medyo siguro, hopefully nga, hindi na sila vulnerable against itong mga recruitment na ito. So because this is a different ROTC from before. The ROTC, if this bill will be passed into law, Mr. Chair, the program of instruction or the implementing rules of regulations will be issued not only by the Department of National Defense, but by the Department of Education and Culture and the Technological Education TISDA, what you call TISDA. So tatlong agencies ang mag-issue ng program of instruction. The military is only one component, Mr. Chair. So the three components as proposed in the bills, I would like to read it again because this is the product of the previous bills from both sides, yung anti or medyo pro nga sides, ano. This is the product now of the which will be the component of our ROTC bills, ano. Enhancing the students' consciousness in the ethics of service, patriotism and nationalism, respect for human rights, appreciation of the role of national heroes in the historical development of the country, strengthen ethical and spiritual values, develop personal discipline and leadership, and to encourage creative thinking for scientific and technological development. One component yan. Second component, basic military training. Dito na ngayon papasok. Basic military training for students in order to motivate, train, organize, and utilize for national defense preparedness or civil military operations. Third component, civic training for students in order to be active participants and volunteers for the development and improvement of health, education, ecology, and environmental protection, disaster risk reduction and management, human and civil rights awareness, and law enforcement. So ito maging component ng program of instruction to be prepared by the Department of National Defense, Department of Education, and TISDA. Mr. Chair, in behalf of the Defense Secretary, these bills passed the tremendous discussions at the department level, wherein we have a committee, a high-level committee, which crafted this bill and approved by the Secretary of Defense, and was presented to the President, and was approved by the President, and was submitted in Congress as an urgent administration bill. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Attorney Danoy. And any comments from the Department of Education being the co-implementer of this proposal?
Mr. Chair, I have questions, but I'll be happy to wait till Department of Ed gives their statement, so I can just give one comment for both. Thank you.
Marami pong salamat, Ginoong Tagapangulo. Magandang umaga po sa lahat, 10 ng mga senador na naririto at lahat po ng mga kinatawan ng iba't ibang mga tanggapan na naririto. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Una po ay nais naming ipahayag na kami po ay sumusuporta sa posisyon na ipinahayag ng DND and Armed Forces of the Philippines sapagkat mayroon na po kaming mahabang pag-uugnayan nung nakaraang pong Kongreso. Batay po sa Republic Act 10533 na kung saan nilikha ang enhancement of basic education na kung saan nagkaroon po tayo ng grades 11 and 12 na tinawag nating senior high school. At dahil din po sa ang kagawaran ng edukasyon ang siyang pangunahing ahensya na nagpapausad ng pagkakaroon ng pagpapatupad ng curriculum, kaya po kami nakiisa sa DND. Ang curriculum po ang aming tinutukan. At batay po sa aming naging kasunduan, ang lalamanin po ng curriculum ay hindi naman po talagang puro military o may kaugnayan sa pagsasanay sa military. Una po, nakalagay dito sa curriculum na magpapatupad ng mandatory ROTC ay life skills. Nais namin ang mga bata magkaroon ng panghabang buhay na kakayahan at kagalingan na siyang magiging paksa ng pagsasanay. Pangalawa po, disaster preparedness. Gusto po namin na ang mga kabataan, kung sila man ay makapagtapos ng grade 12 o senior high school, ay handa na makiisa, makibahagi, saan mang mga gawain kung mayroon pong sakuna sa ating bansa. Pangatlo po, road safety. Nais po namin na bigyang diin ang kahalagahan ng isang matiwasay na daluyan ng transportasyon at daanan para ang mga kabataan po ay matuto kung paano sumunod sa mga batas trapiko. Ang pinakamaigting po dito, yung pong isinusulong namin na pagkamakabansa, pagmamahal sa bansa, nationalism and patriotism, na batay po sa aming mga pagsusuri ay lubha pong nakakaalarma. Nagkaroon po kasi ng focus group discussion ang mga professional na kung saan nag-identify po tayo ng mga values. Meron pong na-identify na 11. Una po sa 11 na ito ay family. Family. Napakaganda po. Ibig sabihin, tayong mga Pilipino, ang tutok natin ay sa pamilya. Ngunit ang nakakaalarma po ay yung pang-11 na-identified na values. Alam niyo po ba, mga mahal na senador, Ginoong Tagapangulo, mga kababayan ko, kung ano po ito? Love of country. Love of country ang pang-11 na na-identify na values. So nakita po namin sa pamamagitan ng mandatory ROTC, mapapalalim pa natin ang pagmamahal ng mga kabataan sa bayan. Na ang ipagtatanggol nila ang ating bayan at tutulungan ang ating bayan. Dito po sa mungkahing mandatory ROTC, ay minabuti rin po naming isama ang akademya. Maari po ito'y academy ng ROTC o bahala po kayo kung ano ang mapagkakasunduan para po sa mga kawani ng DepEd at ng mga kumandant. Nais po namin na merong sapat na pagsasanay ang sino man na magiging komandant o sino mang kawani ng kagawaran ng edukasyon na hahawak ng mandatory ROTC dito po sa pagpapatupad na ito. Sapagkat nais po namin na hindi na mangyari ang mga nakalulungkot na karanasan ng mga nakaraang panahon. At dahil po din dito, sinususugan pa namin, ay naglagay din po kami ng grievance committee mula po sa school level, na ito po ay bubuuin ng mga kawani ng kagawaran at ganun din po ang mga taga DND. At dito po, inilagay namin sa pagpapatupad nito na kung sino man na namamahala ng pagsasanay ng bata sa ROTC ay kagyat na iniulat na nagkaroon ng pagkakamali o pag-aabuso, ay kaagad po na siya ay bibigyan ng preventive suspension. Kagyat po ang pagbibigay ng preventive suspension. Sa makatuwid po, mawawala siya habang siya binibigyan ng pagkakataon sa pag-iimbestiga. Bilang pangwakas po, ang pinakamahalaga po na bumubuo ng curriculum na ito na ipapatupad ay 3 bagay lang po. Una, character formation. Pangalawa po, leadership role. At ang pangatlo, civic duties. Sa kabuuan po, yan yung 3 mahalagang paksa na bubuo ng curriculum ng mandatory ROTC for senior high school. Magandang umaga po sa lahat.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Empeleo. Any questions from the members? Yes, Senator Tolentino.
With the indulgence of Senator Pia. Para po sa kaalaman ng DND, DepEd, CHED, at lahat po ng mga nagtrabaho noong nakaraang kongreso tungkol po doon sa sinabi ni Attorney Norman Daanoy na matagal na itong pinag-usapan, ang inyo pong abang lingkod ay may bagong version nito na sinususugan ko po, sinusuportahan ko po yung inyong ROTC bills bilang si Father nandito. I was an ROTC cadet of the Air Force of Ateneo, but later on joined the Army. I'm now the Brigade Commander of 13th Offers Ready Reserve Brigade of Kamanaba sa Army. But I support the Navy. Kasama po ako dun sa sumalubong sa Conrado Yap noong isang araw. Ang version ko po ay sang-ayon po sa kinikilala ngayon ng ating kasalukuyang panahon. Tayo po nung Commonwealth Act number 38, at ito po ay kinatigan ng Supreme Court. I'd like to cite a line from the Supreme Court decision 81 years ago. Compulsory military service does not go against the constitutional provision, but is, on the contrary, in faithful compliance therewith. The duty of the government to defend the state cannot be performed except through an army. 1938. Ngayon po, ngayong panahong ito, ang pinag-uusapan natin, kagaya ng mga hearings ni Senator De La Rosa noong nakaraan 2 linggo, yung recruitment sa Polytechnic University of the Philippines, sa Far Eastern University, ng mga kabataan, sa senior high school. Sa senior high school. Yung mga problema po natin ngayon sa illegal na droga, pinag-uusapan. Pinag-uusapan din po yung sa trapiko natin, hindi lamang po sa EDSA, kung hindi sa iba't ibang lugar. Yung final ko pong version, Mr. Chair, Senate Bill 212, now includes police training. Hindi lang po nakapaloob sa Army, Air Force, and Navy, but would include a police training component. Hindi, inabot niya pa ho siguro yon, inabot ni Senator De La Rosa, ang Philippine Constabulary, which is the forerunner of the Philippine National Police, used to be a branch service of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, naging Integrated National Police, naging PNP. Ngayon, bumalik na ulit tayo sa rango. Yung mga superintendent, wala na, Brigadier General na huli ang tawag, Police Colonel. Kaya narinig ko kanina, yung mga patungkol sa disaster preparedness, I would want CHED, DepEd, DND, AFP. Sayang, Mr. Chair, hindi natin naimbitahan ang DILG, ang Philippine National Police. I would want you to look at the examples of Malaysia and the Los Angeles Police. Sa Los Angeles Police po, merong Los Angeles Police Cadets, senior high schools. Sa Malaysia, ang pinagmamalaki po nila is ang Malaysian Police Youth Corps. Similar to an ROTC, pero nakafocus po sila sa traffic management, law enforcement, investigation, women's desk, juvenile delinquency, anti-drug campaign. Nasa palagay ko po, kung babaguhin natin yung pangkasalukuyang batas, ay pwede pong maisama doon sa ROTC bill. Dahil component din po yan ng gusto nating matutunan ng mga kabataan, and ito po siguro yung mahalaga, operationally. I heard mention of the word commandant, etc., etc. Operationally, the Armed Forces of the Philippines will agree with me. Operationally, even if the bills filed would include cluster training, baka mahirapan po tayo yung, kasi nung dati, nung ROTC, ang tinutukoy po natin, mga kolehiyo at universidad. Ngayon po, senior high schools. Ganong karami yung senior high schools sa buong Pilipinas, private and public. Operationally, for instance, 9th Infantry Division, Pili, Camarines Sur. Baka matugunan niya ang pangangailangan ng high school sa Naga City, sa Legazpi, sa Camarines Sur. Subalit pagdating na po sa Catanduanes, pagdating na po sa Masbate, pagdating kahit yung malapit na Daet, Camarines Norte, baka wala na, ma-overstretch na yung ating mga drill sergeants, yung mga commandants na itetrain natin na manggagaling sa 9th Infantry Division dahil malayo-layo na. Dahil lahat na ho ng high school ito, hindi gaya dati, ang kailangan lang natin tutukan, University of Nueva Cáceres, Divine Word University ng Legazpi City, and so on and so forth. Dahil napakaraming high school, operationally, lahat po ng munisipyo, lahat po ng high school sa buong Pilipinas, merong pulis. Merong police station. Meron pong namamahalang police director, may PD, may COP. So kung isasama natin ang police training sa konseptong ito, sa pagbabago ng batas, operationally, mas dadali po ang pagpapatupad nitong bagong batas kung ito po ay maaprubahan. Iiwan na lang po natin siguro yung naval training, pipili sila, halimbawa po sa Biliran, halimbawa po sa Guimaras. Pero yung gaps na magkukulang siguro yung ating mga trainers, pwedeng punuan ng kapulisan. And the police service is also, kung titingnan natin, mas marami nga ho ang pulis, ang sandatahan lakas. You have Army, 85,000, Navy, 24,000, Air Force, 16,000. Air Force, nakahimpil lang yan sa Lipa, sa Basa Air Base. So yun lang yung mga pwedeng mag-Air Force trainers natin. Pero ang kapulisan, buong Pilipinas po yan, laganap. Ang PNP po natin, 170,000, as against the active military personnel of 125,000. So kung magtutulong-tulong yan,
Mr. Chair, excuse me,
190
interrupt,
na, no?
kaya interrupt,
190.
195 na, going to
195
200,000.
Mali ito. I stand corrected to the statement of the former Chief of the Philippine National Police. So ibig ko sabihin, para mapatupad po ito sa isang layunin, why don't we include a police training as part of the new law, if enacted? Same purpose, same patriotism, same direction, nadagdagan lang yung sinabi ko, women's desk, traffic management, nawala dito wala ko nakita traffic management, di ba? Ang nagta-traffic lang sa atin, military police, pero sa labas lang yun ang kampo. Pero yung investigation, road accidents, they can also serve as police multipliers. Di ba ho? Iisang direction po yan. So, Mr. Chair, yun po yung pagkakaiba doon sa Senate Bill 212. But in whatever hubris, I fully support Senate Bills 177, 191, 227, and 897. And of course, together with my Senate Bill 212, which I hope can be consolidated to enforce and strengthen existing studies made by the DND and other groups. Salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Chair. May tanong lang po ako kay Attorney Daanoy. Ano po yung mga subjects sa curriculum ng ROTC sa ngayon para maintindihan po natin ang kabuuan ng curriculum niya?
Right now, Mr. Chair, of course, purely military training, and then with some integrated civilian subjects. But you know, ma'am, actually, we have the national.
Pwede po i-detalye kasi nga inadmit na po ni Attorney Daanoy na purely military ang ROTC. Wala nang iba kundi military discipline, military leadership and justice, combat training of individual
Yes.
soldiers, basic unit formation, basic weapons training, preparatory marksmanship training, at iba pa. Maliwanag po na overtly military ang ROTC. Hindi mapagkakaila na hindi community service, hindi rin naman national service na naintindihan natin sa disaster preparedness, public safety, at iba pa. Tama po ba yun?
I agree with you, Mr. Chair.
Kung ganun po, ang sinasabi natin, kapag naging mandatory ang ROTC, pinipilit natin ang bawat isang mag-aaral na maging sundalo. Sa pakiwari ko, hindi napipilit ang sino man na maging sundalo. At kapag pinilit, hindi magiging magiting, mahusay o matapang. Yun po ang problema ko dyan. Ikalawa, yung taon-taon, hindi po ba kinakailangan na ina-upgrade yan? Ano po ang ginagawa? Ang naririnig ko sa Korea, sa Singapore, matindi ang pagbalik nila kada taon. Meron po ba tayong sistema at infrastruktura para sa ganitong retraining, upgrading at updating ng information and skills po? Ang alam ko, sa tunay na sundalo, kulang na kulang. Sa reservist pa kaya? Sa J9 po, may maisasagot po si Commander Enriquez po.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for the question. With regard to the question of the Senator, we admit na yung training ng mga ROTC cadets, wala na po, ma'am. After they graduate from the basic, we lose track of them. Although we have the records that are certifying that these certain students have undertaken the ROTC, so that makes them a member of the pool, not reservist, of the pool of probable reservists in the future, which can be activated in times of emergency. With regard to the problem of tracking, ma'am, right now the reserve commands of the Navy, Army, and the Air Force are currently undertaking what we call a modest management information system, which is still ongoing. So we can track our reservists at any time. So yung sinasabi
So
mo
as a
na...
matter of fact po, we can barely keep track of the former ROTC students. The
Yes.
question of upgrading them and making certain that they are ready and prepared to go into battle whenever they are required by the Republic is clearly out of the question.
With respect to the kind of training that our ROTC students have undertaken, Mr. Chair, we do agree that kulang po ito. Dapat talaga ma-further yung training nila. That's why we have the reservist program. In our reservist program, we see to it that basic military training is more advanced, just like what the Army Reserve Commands are doing. So sa tingin namin, ma'am, yung basic na tinuturo natin sa ating mga ROTC cadets ay yung basic na minimum requirement, but they still need to be further enhanced. So ang pinapoint out kasi ng defense establishment, ma'am, it's very hard to command a major formation. Lalo na yung from the direct population na i-organize mo lang. So what we are doing now is a preparatory action na in times of emergency, meron kang mamobilize, pero not necessarily that these are members of the reserve forces.
Ayun na nga po. Kung ganun rin lang, na yung ROTC hindi naman handa, ni hindi nga natin malaman kung ano yung mga pangalan nila at kung saan-saan na sila nagkalat. Hindi nga natin ma-training para sila'y handa sumabak sa laban. Eh di ba okay na lang sumunod dito sa ating konstitusyon na at any point in time, pwede naman i-call up ang ating citizens. Kasi hindi naman sila handa. Malamang may sakit na yan. Medyo wala na sa kondisyon. May edad na. Hindi po ba, ano ang silbi ng ROTC kung hindi rin pala handa yung mga nag-ROTC?
Ma'am, with all due, Mr. Chair, with all due respect to the statement of the God Senator, we can really compare yung mga nag-undertake ng ROTC at saka yung hindi nag-undertake. In terms of our position sa military, talagang malaki ang diferensya po, ma'am, yung hindi pa nag-take ng training. We admit na kulang yung actual na nag-take ng ROTC ay kulang, pero mas lalong kulang, ma'am, yung hindi talaga nag-undertake. What we are trying to say here, Mr. Chair, is the level of preparedness of each student or each citizen is mas mataas kung may training. Kahit na kulang, mas parang kami kasabihan, ma'am, na okay na yung kulang pero kaysa wala talaga.
Mr. Chair, admitido naman ang ating AFP. It seems very clear that the system is simply not in place. Just imposing IROTC on the educational establishment will not solve our readiness for peace and order. It is clear that what we need is a full-blown program involving an annual upgrading, the infrastructure, logistics, possibly the payment of some of these potential recruits. Just doing lip service to an ROTC program that's incapable of upgrading skills and training and retraining so that each and every member is ready for battle is simply unnecessary. Finally po, may namamatay po ba sa ROTC? Hindi po ba noong 2001 nagkaroon ng murder kay Sergeant Major Mark Welson Chua at hindi lang siya, kundi iba pa ang nadali rin sa training pa lamang. At ang tawag po natin dito, acceptable casualty ratio. Iiwasan yan, may nadadali talaga sa training, given na po yun.
Mr. Chair, so far wala kami may nakita ng casualty sa training. That could be yung sa kay Chua, that is a different case. Maybe there could be a report of abuse or what, etc. But those who are responsible were punished. So as far as ROTC training is concerned, marami mga issue, mga corruptions. But these are all allegations na hindi ma-validate, ano? Puro lang allegations eh. So far, sa tagal ko na sa Defense Department, in my 33 years, Mr. Chair, wala hong may na-validate nga, except yung kay Chua na yan. But that could be considered an abuse, ano? But when we speak of something like casualty, when we speak of casualty, actually in military training, mayroong 6%, I don't know how much, I don't know, but it's not the casualty that we are talking about because hindi naman ito military training training ito sa mga estudyante, cadets So,
pero ang realidad, sa kadete pa po at sa trainee, talagang may nadadali at talagang tanggap na natin na may percentage nito. Dahil, eto nga, this is the military euphemism for casualties inflicted by the enemy that are considered minor or in fact tolerable. In operations, klaro na ang ating speed of advancement is sometimes simply more important than the safety of the troops. Hindi po ba nangyayari rin yan paminsan-minsan sa ating training? May nadadali rin po. So, ang akin lang po, talagang at grave risk, kinakailangan na optional po yung ROTC. Hindi mapagkakaila na ito ay military training. Kahit ano pa ang sabihin natin, military training po ito at kinakailangan na piliin ng buong puso at katapatan, ika nga, ng bawat isang sasabak dito. Maraming salamat po.
Before we continue, we recognize presence of Senator Gordon.
Ay, gano'n.
Senator Bato.
I yield to Senator Bato because I want to listen to his wisdom and then I will ask my questions.
Mr. Chair, I just would like to clarify itong misconception na brought out by the good lady Senator of Ilocos Norte na yung 6% casualty ratio allowable sa training. Alam niyo po, ginagamit, actually in reality, wala po yan. Yan po ay ginagamit lang ng military o ng police pang saywar doon sa mga trainee to make sure that they stay alive. Yung panakot lang yan ba? Authorize kami na may casualty rate na ganito, pero pantakot lang yan para magsumikap yung trainee na makapasar sa training. Yan yung, and to stay alive. Yun yung purpose yan, pero wala po yan. Misnomer yan. Misnomer yan. And, Mr. Chair, if I may, I would like to go back to
Go ahead.
sa DepEd kay Mr. Empleo. Pasensya ka na, hindi ako masyadong magaling magtagalog kagaya mo. Ang lalim ng Tagalog mo, pero sana maintindihan mo yung aking pananagalog ngayon. Yung kan ba, yung sinabi mo kanina, your intention to create an ROTC Academy in order to train yung hahawak na itong program na ito, does it mean na in the long run, you are intending to take over the program, the DepEd will take over the program by employing organic DepEd personnel to run the ROTC program away from the AFP? Yan ba yung, as I hear you?
Mr. Chair, ang katotohanan po niyan, kami po ang hahawak ng grade 11 and 12 ng senior high school. At ang mga bata po ay nasa aming pangangalaga. So, tinitingnan po namin na kung may mga reservist po na DepEd personnel, na sa ngayon po ay kinukuha na namin, kinakalap na po namin ang talaan ng mga reservist na nasa DepEd ngayon, ay mabigyan pa sila ng pagsasanay na orientasyon dito sa bagong ipapasang batas. Na masisiguro po namin na wala ng pang-aabuso. Yun po yung gustong gawin ng DepEd para po sa senior high school, Mr. Chair.
Can I get the comment from the military? Yung itong intention ng Mr. Chair? Can I get the reaction to that reaction? Paano yung the DepEd wanted to take charge of the training program sa grades 11 and 12. So meaning, sila, personnel nila hawak, walang sa inyo. Anong masasabi niyo?
Mr. Chair, I'm the Naval Reserve Commander of the Navy. I think what has been said by the DepEd is already being implemented. In one of the colleges that we have school coordinators who are already our reservists, and that's what we're doing right now. And also to add with what the DepEd has said, It's more on values formation, awareness, ang ginagawang preparation. It's not being recruiting them to join, but maybe if they intend to join, then they can be a reservist or join the regular forces if they intend to pursue their military training. But it's more on awareness and development of values formation pa ang nawawala. Kaya nga, currently, it is already being implemented. We're already recruiting some of, even they are volunteering, in fact, to join the reservist corps to pursue that kind of training. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So, okay sa inyo. Walang problema. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I am not opposing for that. Ha? Ako, kinaro ko lang sa kanila para...
Thank you po, Mr.
kung okay
Chair.
sa kanila, no problem with me. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I
Yes,
proceed?
go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Empleo, you earlier mentioned that when children were surveyed, children ba or students? Students were surveyed, number one value nila is family. And
Mga professionals po, Mr. Chair.
professionals, okay. So number one nila is family and number 19 is country. Okay,
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
okay. And that is one of the reasons why you are supporting the ROTC program. Okay.
Tama po.
For the record lang, no, kasi na-mention po ni Attorney Danoy, 5 bills ang nakarating sa inyo. Ang bill ko po is Senate Bill number 925, hindi niyo ho na-mention, so baka hindi pa ho nakarating. Dahil kaka-read lang yon, it was just read, first reading niya was just on Tuesday. So it is possible that you have not seen it. May I just request that all the resource persons be given time to read my bill. But in any case, I'll proceed with my question. But for the record, my bill has not been transmitted, I suppose. And baka pati ho sa inyo, Mr. Empleo? Okay. Anyway, let me proceed. So that's the reason why you are supporting ROTC, because the core value of love of country is not something that is manifested dun sa mga na ano nyo, na kausap nyo or na survey. But my question is, what is the best time to instill these core values? Or if I were to rephrase that question, when are the formative years of a child?
Mr. Chair, bilang isang guro po, naniniwala po ako na ito ay dapat magsimula sa tahanan.
Sa tahanan. Tama
Yan
po
po.
yun. I
At
also
kami
agree.
po sa paaralan ay sumusuporta para ipagpatuloy ang pagsasanay ng mga kabataan para mahubog sila sa mabuting pag-uugali.
So sa family, no?
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
And after the family, ang first outside experience nila would be daycare, which is now under ECD, and then after that is grade 1, correct?
Tama po.
And yet we are talking about ROTC to instill love of country and the concept of patriotism. Should that not start earlier in the family and in the early grades? Do you agree or disagree?
Sumasang-ayon po ako, Mr. Chair, sa inyong pahayag na dapat nagsisimula sa tahanan. Ngunit ang mahalaga po, paano ba ipagpapatuloy?
Tama naman yon. Pero nagtataka lang ako, bakit love of country, sa dalawa pa lang naman ng resource persons na napakinggan natin, no? Attorney Danoy, no? Grade 11 and 12, itong ROTC nyo, because you started, I was taking notes, and your opening statement was basically only 2 to 3 out of 10 high school graduates would go to college. And that is why we need to train the 7 for nationalism and patriotism. And then you didn't continue that sentence, but were you about to say, you were sort of saying something to the effect that so that hindi sila ma-recruit or hindi sila, pwede nyo bang i-continue lang yun? Because I do wanna ask you about that. Can you continue that because I don't want to read, I don't want to put words in your mouth, no? So ano ho yung iniiwasan natin na mangyari? Na mamundok sila, na maging rebelde po sila, yun ho ba? Para clear lang po tayo.
Alam mo, Your Honor, kapag hindi mo maagapan ng maaga yan no? Hindi mo na training ng gusto yan vulnerable yan.
To what?
Vulnerable to recruitment.
To
no?
recruitment.
Oh.
And we're talking about rebellious groups who,
Yes,
okay,
and,
understand.
and it's happening now.
No, I
Mr.
don't
Chair.
question. I just wanted to be sure that I understood you properly. So on that note, I throw back the question though. Does the concept of nationalism, does the core value of nationalism and patriotism only begin in senior high, only begin with ROTC? Because this is what we are talking about. The two people who spoke, and we'll obviously give time to everybody else, is saying that ROTC is the answer. So that's the question I posed because my version includes all of this discussion similar to Senator Marcos, to include that in grade school and high school and onward. I want to ask if that is clear that this is not just a concept that should be focused on in senior high. Tama, do you agree?
Mr. Chair, ang katotohanan po niyan, nais natin na ang magtatapos sa senior high school ay may malinaw at siguradong pagmamahal sa bansa.
Okay. Sige,
Na ito po'y nagsisimula sa tahanan hanggang sa
pero
pag-aaral.
ano pa ho ang mga programa na pwede? Kasi nabanggit din ni Attorney Danoy and tinanong din siya ni Senator Marcos na ano ba itong mga programs? And they are military programs. So
Sa-
that's what that's my question. Ano pa ho ba yung mga programs outside? And nabanggit naman po yung disaster risk. I took note of that. Nabanggit din po yung civic service. Pero ang tanong ko nga is, why in senior high and through an ROTC program? Why?
Mr. Chair, dahil medyo maayos na po yung kanilang pangangatawan para po dito sa mga gampanin na ito, kagaya ng disaster
Ano ibig
preparedness.
sabihin ng maayos ang kanilang pangangatawan?
Meron na pong sapat na kahandaan yung kanilang
So
katawan.
we are talking about their physical fitness.
Bahagi lang po yan,
their
bahagi lang po.
ability, their physical ability to cope with what?
Bahagi po
hardships?
yan.
Because I genuinely
Yeah,
want
opo,
to
opo.
understand.
Naunawaan ko po ang nais niyong ipahayag, Madam Senator. Ang katotohanan po, hindi lamang naman po yung pangangatawan, isa po yung bahagi. Ang ating pong hinahasa sa paaralan ay isip, kalooban, pangangatawan, at ang kanya pong galing o skills na sinasabi natin. Yun po yung buo na tutugunan ng mandatory ROTC para paglabas nila ng basic education o senior high school, sila ay may sapat ng kahandaan sa pangangailangan kung merong mga sakuna. At meron po silang life skills, halimbawa yung sa rescue, dapat maturuan sila na hindi naman po pwedeng ipaganap natin sa mga maliliit na bata. Sila po yung inaasahan natin na nasa sapat na gulang na makatutugon sa pangangailangan sa kasalukuyan ng ating bansa.
I beg to disagree. In this age of disaster risk preparedness, yung mga bata, dapat aware po sila how they can protect themselves and even younger members of their family. So disaster risk preparedness, ang sa akin po, grade school pa lang, meron na po yun. So with everything in education, kayo na siguro ang master nun, it's age appropriate, di ba? We go back to age
Tama po.
appropriate. And everything you're saying should be age appropriate.
Tama po.
It should be based on age appropriateness. And therefore, why limit it to an ROTC military-based program? That's the point that I'm getting at. Why? I'd like to understand, why is it that it is a military-based program that you are pushing to inculcate nationalism and patriotism? In my bill, and I will give you time to read it, no, I'm also introducing the concept of art appreciation. Ako, naiiyak ako yung pagmamahal ko sa bansa natin, nalalabas pag nakakita ho ako ng mga kumakanta, ng mga bayanihan dance troupe, dahil ako ay walang katalent-talent doon. At talagang tumataas ang balahibo ko at yung pagmamahal ko sa bansa ko, nafe-feel ko, pag nakikita ko sila. So it's not necessarily through military means that love of country and patriotism in beautiful created movies. No, pag nakita ko yung ano yung mga lumabas, General Luna, yung buhay ni Jose Rizal, doon po talagang naiba ho talaga yung yung bilib ko din sa mga nagpakamatay para sa bansa natin. So I'm just wondering why I have not seen any of these kind of programs included there. And I'd like to go back, Attorney Danoy, when you talk about the 7 who will not go to college, sinabi din niyo po na hindi ho recruited automatically ang mga magagraduate ng program, correct?
Yes, Mr.
So
Chair.
there is no job waiting for them per se. In other words, they don't graduate and say, eto na, naka-sign up ka na, may trabaho ka na. Wala naman po, di ba? So that does
No,
not address lack of economic resources, which we all know is one of the main reasons for instability in the country, correct? That doesn't offer them jobs.
At least, Mr. Chair, with the training in the ROTC, at least may preparation na siya kung anong gusto niya papuntahan Oh,
but
not
this is-
necessarily nga pagka-graduate mo sa ROTC ay assured siya kung ano man nga trabaho ibigay sa kanya. At least,
You're saying
Kung
na he
gusto
can
niya
go into the
mag-OFW,
reservist program, right? Tama? Did I understand you correctly? Na parang one step closer ka na, pwede kang mag-apply ng reservist program. I understand. And there are job opportunities there. But I'm just making it clear na yung itine-training natin na ROTC does not number one mean that they are automatically recruited. Correct? You said that. And number two, you're also clarifying that it opens opportunities kasi dumaan na sila sa parang initial training and they can be reservists. I understand that also. But what I'm saying is this, automatic ba na may sweldo sila? Ang sabi nyo, hindi naman. Kasi wala naman silang trabaho na offer. So how many hours of a student's life will go into this training when they could be doing life skill trainings that would automatically give them a job? Whether it's TESTA, whether it's sciences, whether it's information technology. Because at the end of the day po, ang ating international ranking, ang ating Southeast Asian ranking, very, very low ang ating output ng abilities ng students natin to cope with the demands of the jobs. The Philippine Institute for Development Studies, CPIDS, ang sabi nila, firms are reluctant to hire senior high school graduates due to lack of in-depth knowledge. So my question lang naman po is, I am an athlete, I love extracurricular activities, I've chosen the schools of my children based on schools that have extracurricular activities. So don't get me wrong, I am very supportive. I love my COTC. I was telling General Bato, isa akong unang pumila doon. So don't get me wrong. And I am a graduate of APCSS, the Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies. So I support everything you are talking about in principle. But at what cost? How many hours will you require? Hours that could be spent improving their mathematics, hours that could be spent getting into the creative arts that could give them jobs in information technology, in graphic and design, etc., etc. It just needs to be studied. I am not against it. It just needs to be studied. Okay? So may I ask that you look into that? How many hours? Kasi yun din yata yung tanong ni Senator Marcos. Para clear tayo kung ano ba yung skill na output na gusto natin makuha nila. Ano ba ho, i-clarify natin para hindi natatakot ang mga nanay, katulad ko, nanay ako na nagiging purely military lang naman to. Now again, don't get me wrong, sobra ang paghahanga ko, in particular just because sila lang naman ang kilala kong men and women in uniform sa PMA. Sobra talaga, sobra. Pero it goes back to the next question, kayo ba ang magtuturo sa mga batang ito? Mga PMA graduates ba? Kasi one of the persons, I haven't asked their permission yet, but one of the persons I would like to invite are the past superintendents of PMA to ask how they instill this sense of discipline and love of country in PMA. Kasi ibang level ang tingin ko sa mga graduate dyan. So we have 10,000 plus senior high schools who will be teaching these subject matters. So those are details that I think we cannot just generalize. We really need to know because every hour spent outside, ito po yung pinaglalaban ko when I talk about athletic programs. So please understand that I understand. When I ask that a child be pulled out to pursue their passion in sports, I'm also pulling them out from their academic classes. So I support that, but it just needs to be justified. So what skills are they learning when they are not pursuing their academics? Yun lang gusto kong clear na clear po dyan dito sa program natin. So before I have many more questions, Mr. Chair, but before I leave, before I end at this point lang, balikan ko lang po yung ating optional protocol, no? As correctly pointed out by Attorney Danoy, the Philippines made a exception, which is for purposes of training. We may have this program, no? However, it is very clear that the student, cadet, trainee attains the majority age at the completion date. At sinabi nga niya na ito ay dahil sa PMA. Meron tayong PMA at that time that we signed this, so that was taken into consideration. 4-year course po yun. So pag pumasok ng 17 years old yung bata at nag-graduate siya, 21 na siya. In senior high, not everyone is graduating at 18. So I just don't know how you intend to address that. I have many more questions, but like I said, wait. But how can this be addressed lang? Kasi it's a legal issue. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I respond to the Honorable Cayetano? Uh, kung nag-training siya at hindi pa niya na-reach ang 18 years old, hindi siya pwede i-recruit. Because that is our reservations and declarations with the United Nations. Hindi natin siya, pagdating kung sakaling ang training is yes. Because recruitment in the armed forces of the Philippines is still voluntary. Is still voluntary. Kahit nag-graduate ka ng ROTC, kung ayaw mo, di wala. Ayaw. So kung gin-training sa 17 years old, tapos nagtapos sa training niya, still 17 years old pa sa may 1 month or 2 months, he cannot be recruited in the armed forces of the Philippines. Hintay niya mag-18 sa kasa.
I understand what you're saying. It's just that the way the exception is written, it makes it in plain English language, which is how you're supposed to interpret legal documents, and this is a legal document. It says that the student cadet trainee attains the majority age at the completion date. So it doesn't say that at the time of recruitment. So that's my legal issue with it. We don't have to debate it now. I'm just putting it on record that my understanding is that on the completion date, dapat 18 siya. And like you said, because this was based to accommodate PMA, then it's very clear to me that 17, walang kaduda-duda na above 18 na siya after 4 years. Hindi ho to I don't see how this can be applied. But you know, you can write me a legal memo, you can explain it another time. I don't want to take up the valuable time of the committee at this point. One last thing, balik lang ako dun sa yung hindi nyo naman nire-recruit, right? Sabi nyo, they will graduate, they have a certification that they passed the ROTC course, and they may be invited, ganun ba yun? Or they will be automatically, they can automatically apply to be a reservist? Is that how it works?
Our previous discussion with the Senate deliberation is that hindi lang magkakaintindihan sa word na enlistment at saka registration. Usually, pag natapos ka ng ROTC before, is that you are, how do you use the word? Enlisted. Na-enlist ka na.
Okay.
Parang nare-record ka na, nag-graduate ka na.
Okay.
Because in case of emergency
Pwede
or
ka nang
mobilization
tawagin.
passed by Congress,
Pwede ka nang tawagin.
meron tayong mga listahan sa mga
Oo.
regions, by provinces,
Correct.
municipalities.
But then again, for the record, we're talking about college,
Oh.
okay? This was college.
College, okay.
So over 18 yan, and college. Okay, and then go ahead, please proceed.
Dito naman niya sa grades 11 and 12, pag-graduate niya ng ROTC, say 17 years old pa rin siya. So we avoid the word enlistment.
Okay.
We are only registering, i-register lang ang pangalan mo para yung natin yung
Parang database.
Yeah, database natin, ganon. Ganon lang ang punto
Note yung
doon.
contribution ko po
Yes,
yan.
ganon lang ang database.
The word database.
Madali nating hanapin. So
Okay, but the question is, does it automatically mean that they can then, when assuming they're 18, can be called to serve?
no, because the recruitment in the military in this jurisdiction is voluntary.
Kaya nga, but by law, you're not changed. By this law, if we
You
pass
can
such
be-
a
yeah.
law, you're not changing that. You're not.
Yeah.
So yung dating ROTC,
Oh.
nung pumasok ka doon, hindi automatic yung enlistment mo, hindi rin.
Hindi.
Hindi rin.
No, no.
Nililiwanag ko lang para yung mga ibang issues hindi na dapat maging issue, 'di ba? Para
Oo.
yung ibang like ako, gustong-gusto ko nga yung COTC ko, yung nakikita kong result ng PMA, at least alam ko voluntary pa rin 'yon. But I still have other questions. I reserve that for later. Thank you
Mr.
very
Chair.
much.
With
Thank
the
you
kind
very much, ma'am.
indulgence of Senator Cayetano, during the last hearing in the 17th Congress, we invited the OSG to shed light on this PH Philippine Declaration in the optional protocol. And we'd like to hear the comments of the OSG regarding possible violation of the declaration in the optional protocol.
Good morning po, Mr. Chair, and good morning po, Mr. and Ms. Senators. The concerns of the OSG as consulted to us by Mr. Chair was is the mandatory ROTC compliant with our obligation under the optional protocol on the involvement of children in armed conflict, or the OPAC protocol. Particularly, Article 1 of the OPAC states that state parties shall take all feasible measures to ensure that members of their armed forces who have not attained the age of 18 years do not take a direct part in the hostilities. Article 2 thereof also states that state parties shall ensure that parties who have not attained the age of 18 years are not compulsorily recruited into their armed forces. Now, our accession with the OPAC, which we ratified on August 26, 2003, our declaration was that the minimum age for voluntary recruitment into the armed forces of the Philippines is 18 years, except for training purposes, whose duration shall have the students, cadets, trainees attain the majority age at the completion date. There is Second, there is no compulsory force or coerced recruitment into the armed forces of the Philippines. And third, recruitment exclusively on a voluntary basis. Now, the concern of the OSG is the defensibility of this law when this will be passed, because for sure this will be questioned by cause-oriented groups before the Supreme Court on the alleged constitutionality as well as our compliance with the optional protocol. So, with that, we recommended that our concern was addressed by during the last technical working group meeting, when we inserted Section 10 registration in the reserve force in the version of the bill by Senator Gatchalian. Section 10 of his version provides that registration in the reserve force pursuant to Section 14 of Republic Act number 7077, a student who has completed the basic ROTC program in senior high school shall be registered in the reserve force only upon reaching the age of 18. And we clarified in the definition of terms the meaning of registration. And registration under Section 3, Section 3I, registration is defined as the act of recording the name and or other relevant information of the students who have completed the ROTC program in grades 11 and 12 and on the official list of ROTC graduates, provided that the registration that is referred to under this act shall not be construed as enlistment in the AFP reserve or regular force. And we in the OSG believe that this is enough to address our reservation with OPAC, our accession with the OPAC. So there will be no compulsory recruitment, but there will only be registration of those who completed the mandatory ROTC program in the senior high. That will be all.
Thank you. So in other words, in the opinion of the OSG, walang violation sa OPAC as well as the PH declaration under the OPAC.
Yes po, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Further comment on that. But did you take into consideration that when that reservation was made, it was made very clear that that was made to accommodate the situation of PMA? I'm just saying that those who will oppose it will look into that what was the significance of that exception at the time it was made. And if they can prove that it was made just for PMA, then it doesn't follow, because the understanding there was that they will graduate way above the age of 18. That's my concern. You don't want a protracted, what do you call this, legal battle on this issue, because we all agree that we want nationalism, we want patriotism. So you might want to study that a little bit deeper.
Mr. Chair.
Noted po, Ms. Senator.
Thank you very much, Attorney Ortega. At dahil nga nabanggit ang ating UN Resolution 1261, nais ko lang ikwento na itong diskusyon natin ay parang deja vu, kasi narinig ko na po ito at nagsimula ito noong 1967 sa Executive Order 59 ng aking ama na sinaad na kinakailangan maging mandatory yung ROTC. Sa haba ng panahon at sa kanyang karanasan, PD 1706-1980, binaliktad ng sariling ama ko yung kanyang dekreto at ginawa na lamang optional sa National Service Law. Sabi niya, ang kabayanihan ay nakikita sa iba't ibang anyo. Civic welfare, law enforcement, katulad ng sinasabi ni Senator Tolentino, at kung ninanais, military service. At nakikita natin na itong diskusyon ay dinadaanan na naman natin. Pero tulad nga ng dati, alam natin na ang kabayanihan ay kailanman hindi iisa ang anyo, hindi iisa lamang ang larangan, kundi maipapakita sa iba't ibang larangan, katulad nga ng civil welfare, law enforcement, at pwede ring wagas na ROTC na military service. I-share ko lang po yun kasi napagdaanan na namin yung diskusyon na yan sa pamilya at sa ating bansa mula 1967 hanggang 1980. Huwag naman tayo pa ikot-ikot na lamang.
Mr. Chair, with the permission of Senator
Senator
Tolentino, I
Binay.
only have one question. Since nabanggit na kanina ni Senator Pia yung number of hours that will be spent by our students, may computation na din ho ba tayo doon sa budgetary requirement if we do implement ROTC during the senior years? Hindi ko alam kung si Mr. Empleo or somebody from DND can answer that question.
Anyone from J9? Commodore Enriquez.
Yes, Your Honor. We have made estimates that if we assume that the armed forces will shoulder everything and in return put it in our requirements for budget, with capital outlay, meaning that we are going to put up all the buildings and infrastructure, we'll be needing a per capita of 5,600 per student. If we remove that without capital outlay, it will go down to 3,532 pesos per student. The breakdown of this are the subsistence allowance, the insurance, administrative requirements, the training, the logistics, the uniforms. Yes, ma'am.
And on the part of DepEd?
We still have to validate, Madam Chair. And we will submit our validated budgetary proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chairman,
Senator Gordon.
with the permission of the chair, and if there is no procedure in terms of, I understand it's a free-willing.
Yes,
So,
Senator Gordon.
may I, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, I think that we're discussing this round and round because I think hindi pa natin nasasabi kung anong vision natin eh. When you say ROTC, I was in the ROTC, at ang ROTC, yung pagkaintindi namin ng araw, you spend 2 years basic training. Every Friday or every Saturday, you go to school and you practice drill. Sometimes you're allowed to fire, wala kang live fire. And you have tactical officers. That was the time, during time. If we're talking about that, then you're just repeating what was before. Now, if you're talking about the Constitution, on the matter that every citizen ay dapat maghanda to defend the country, iba yan. Are we talking about a Korea, a Singapore, whereas where young people can be conscripted and serve 2 years, as in Israel or in Korea or in Singapore? But if we're thinking of training for the sake of training, sa tingin ko, I think yung nationalism cannot be force-fed eh. Nasa Department of Education yan eh, nasa pamilya yan eh, na talagang sinasabi natin, there is service to country. But when you start doing ROTC, Mr. Chairman, dapat talagang seryoso. Are we going to teach them, anong objective natin? Para naman pagka may giyera, meron tayong grupo na pwedeng tawagin na marunong na mag-drill, marunong na magmarcha, marunong humawak ng baril. Kung yun ang objective natin. And right now, the prevailing winds are very reactionary. Nagagalit yung iba, ayaw ng ROTC dahil nung araw may mga namatay. So nag-react. Sinara yung ROTC. Dahil may mga pinatay, may mga hazing. I think that's a knee-jerk response. And I think we're going into that again. Magni-knee-jerk na naman tayo rito na ayaw natin yung ROTC because meron ganon. Pero ang purpose natin, unang-una, ilagay natin sa saligang batas. To defend the country. Meron tayong source. Sinasabi nyo, kahit na wala namang ROTC, alam natin pagka may ID system na tayo, alam na natin kung sinong over 18, tatawagin natin yan eh. If you go back to history, Mr. Chairman, during World War II, before World War II, Quezon, upon the advice of MacArthur, saw that there was going to be a war with Japan. So ginawa nila yung National Defense Act at nagkaroon ng ROTC, which formed the basis of yung mga hunters, guerrillas, no? Yung iba naman, walang ROTC training, umakyat lang sa bundok at lumaban. Now, kung ang purpose natin dito, may problema tayong parating na nakikita natin, then dapat talaga, lagyan natin ng pera yung training ng ROTC at yung budget talaga, huwag natin pipigilan yan. Dahil hindi naman natin pwedeng itapon yung mga bata doon na walang kaalam-alam sa training sa ROTC. How to follow commands, how to do skirmishes left, skirmishes right, o yung mga position, yung tactical. So, as far as I know, dapat alamin natin kung anong vision natin. Yung PMT, dati-dati, preparatory military training yan. Third year, fourth year high school. We paid for our own uniforms, gano'n rin sa ROTC. Pero again, drill. Natingin ko, pagdating ng ROTC, you are taught to drill. Sometimes you were brought to Nichols because we were Air Force or Basa Air Base. And we trained over the weekend dun sa Basa Air Base. And learn how to do it. ROTC in America is different, Mr. President. ROTC is the Reserve Officer Training Course. It is an opportunity for somebody who wants to get an education, kukuha siya ng ROTC para maging officer siya eventually. That's how Colin Powell became Chief of Staff. Nag-ROTC yan. Sa atin, yung mga nag-ROTC sa atin, sila Fabian Ber, sila General Santos, Rigoberto Atienza, General Espino, they're all products of ROTC natin. Ang ROTC natin, iba, nag-training sila. And then they really became ROTC. Pagkatapos ng 2-year basic course, they had what they call 2 more courses called probationary training. To become a probationary officer, you actually train 3rd year, 4th year, and then when you graduate, you're brought to camp and you train maybe about 6 months or even a year, and then you get a commission right away. Where are we going with this bill? Yung bill ko, tinawag ko Citizens Service Act. Para sa ganon, kung may magkakaroon tayo ng giyera, may nalalaman na yung tao, yung mga tao natin. Hindi yung nangangapa tayo, yung tatawag ng... that is a very real threat, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, na maaring mangyari, and we cannot take it for granted na let us say China decides to attack Taiwan. Doon ba lang tayo maghahanda? Or for that matter, our ship is sunk and then doon ba lang tayo maghahanda? At the same time, Mr. Chairman, yung ROTC natin dito dati, ginagamit yan sa elections, tigabantay, nung araw. Ginagamit yan, magkamisan, pagka may disaster. Well and good, Mr. President. But the real core of the National Defense Act, which envisioned an ROTC program, which I thought was a misnomer, was to train yung mga bata para kung magkagyera, madaling tawagin, may training na sila, madaling mag-form ng mga units, at makakalabang kaagad o makakatulong sa bayan natin. So the long and the short of what I'm trying to say, Mr. President, is it vision. Kung ang ROTC program na gagawin natin, sabihin natin, magiging force multiplier yan pagka may giyera, fine, well and good. Kung sasabihin natin, ang ROTC para lang matuto, well and good. Paggagamit natin sa disaster or whatever, no? Elections ko, no? But, again, sinasabi ko lang po dito, ay kailangan ibalik yan because nakalimutan na ng tao na dapat meron tayong investment sa bayan. In fact, I would most favor an ROTC training program where we provide scholarships for officers. No? Talagang pag nag-ROTC ka, mag-aaral ka, pag-graduate mo, magiging officer ka sa military. Pero kung ang objective naman natin dito ay matrain, then sufficient na yung 2-year program natin na mag-aral sila, mag-march, konting shooting sa kwan. Pero I'll tell you, even during our time, we never were even able to fire because walang budget palagi. Walang bala. Meron kaming mga sham battle at over and above everything else. Wala talagang, hindi seryoso. So, at tapos talagang may corruption. Yung mga mayayaman, yung tactical officer, bibigyan ng whiskey, bibigyan ng konting pabuya, kakaroon na sila ng health problem, hindi na sila magte-training. It became even a source of graft. So, what we do here, Mr. Chairman, will dictate the kind of quality of citizens we're going to have. I once was in Singapore and having dinner with a member of parliament, and there was a young man there with us. And he was serving food along with his sister. Pagdating ng alas 11, sabi niya, may I have your permission to withdraw, sir? Sabi niya, why? I have to go to the base. I'm a citizen soldier. I'm doing my time. You go to Israel, you see women carrying M16s, even U.S. carbines, which was used in World War II. Everybody has to train because iba ang sitwasyon ng Israel, malapit sila sa giyera. Sa Singapore, maliit silang bayan, kailangan may training, maliit pa sila. Korea, they have to train 2 years. Why? Meron silang kating bayan na North Korea. Tayo ngayon, may problema. If we think it's sufficient na kailangan talaga mag-training tayo, it is well within the national interest na talagang maghanda ang mga bata rito at mag-train. Train officers and at least do sa ROTC basic course, 2 taon. I was asking my friends here, Vanguard, itong mga katabi ko, ako ROTC lang sa Ateneo, sabi niya, not all of us can be perfect. Sabi ko naman sa kanila, but how many Vanguards do you have as senator? No, wala naman. No? So, madali sabihin niya, pero sila, may mga Vanguard, no? ROTC officer rin tayo eh. But that's not the point. The point, Mr. President, ano ba ang gusto natin para sa bayan natin? If we need to really train, kung ako tatanungin nyo, I heard my father and Senator Jokno once talking in our living room. Sabi niya, alam mo, Jimmy, sabi niya sa tatay ko, kung itong mga anak natin, talagang magsusundalo yan, o kaya magte-training sila, madadraft sila, o kaya magsisilbi sa bayan. Wala tayong problema because equalization yan eh. Pag nasa military ka, walang mayaman, walang mahirap, pareho tutulugan nyo sa barracks eh. Pareho kakainin ninyo. And in this particular instance, kung naintindihan natin, sabi ko nga palagi, it's better to know where we're going and not know how than to know how we're going and not know where. If we want to prepare our citizenry for a possible external threat, then by all means, let us use the ROTC as scholarship program. Let us use the ROTC basic program, 1-2 years, nagdi-drill yung mga bata para hindi na sila mahihirapan kagad, mas mabilis tayo mag-mobilize. And to me, that is the point. And we must give a budget for this. Kung lukuhan lang at walang budget, naku po, nung araw po kami nagbabayad ng ROTC, yung uniform namin, PMT, ROTC. We even designed the kind of, we were very proud to have a Class A uniform, to have a lanyard in our Class B uniform. In Ateneo, and ganun rin sa Vanguard. And we used to go to PMA and debated with the PMA cadets. And at one time during the Cuban crisis, the Ateneo, we were going to to PMA for the annual debate. Dumaan kami sa Clark, and this was the Cuban crisis, and we were brought to real planes, F-102 Delta. Nandun ako doon sa loob ng canopy, biglang tumawag yung klaxon. I had to jump from the klaxon because everybody was rushing towards their plane because there was a threat that was detected. I thought that was serious enough. That was the nearest thing I thought that we had for a serious exposure to the military. But there's nothing wrong with the military tradition. Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, look at the other countries. The military is a source of good leadership, especially in defending our country. They don't necessarily have to be drafted into the cabinet, all of them, at the same time. Maybe you should give them time na mag-involve muna sa civilian, tapos kunin natin sila sa cabinet, but not right after retirement. But that's another topic. And the point I just want to make is this, Mr. President. General Marshall was not in the military academy of the West Point. He was in BMI. And yet he rose to become a diplomat soldier. Colin Powell, all these other people, they were all ROTC. No? And you had an Audie Murphy, who was one of the most decorated soldiers in World War II. Some of us probably remember his movie, Padre Tabora is there, To Hell and Back. He was a very, very poor Texan who had to fend for his... he joined without having training, and he had to go to boot camp, and he was, they called him a shrimp because he was so short, and yet he fought for his country. So yung sinasabi niyo, love of country, sa Amerika, matindi yan because every generation has gone to war since the Civil War or even as far as the Revolution. And that's why you have flags outside their homes. Now, a veteran lives here. Now, to my mind, Mr. President, as we discuss this, I just thought I'd give this background. I hope it's useful. Para sa ganon, we know where to go. We know where to handle it. Ang suggestion ko, i-separate yung citizens military service. At saka yung ROTC. Yung ROTC, make it professionalized. They want to be they want to get an education, they want to have a career in the military, they cannot make it to the PMA. Have them get a scholarship provided for by the university or by the government. If they want to know how to drill, know how to handle a firearm, know how basic tactics, they should do that. And so my suggestion here, Mr. President, is we have all these resource persons. Siguro mag-usap-usap muna. Segregate natin. Ano ba ang pakay natin? Kung patriotism, too late na yan. Too late na inculcate yan. Because, sabi nyo, number 19 ang patriotism. My gosh, I mean, that means that the educational system has really failed miserably. I mean, we are taught to love our country. Kunyari, meron pa tayong panunumpa sa watawat, meron pa tayong flag ceremony. Every day, even in the Senate, lalagay pa natin yung kamay natin sa dibdib natin. I don't know whether we really love our country or we just want to claim that we love our country, but we really love ourselves more. And that is why ROTC is important. It puts them outside the circle of self. It puts them into a situation where I want to choose whether I can serve my country in time of war, in time of disasters, in time of exercises in democracy. I want to be able to know where I will fit, and ROTC should be a good fit there. But before we do that, we must have the budget, and there is money. And I'm willing to support that. Same way I support a strong military. At the same time, kung sila ay magkakaroon ng budget, eh, kailangan the best yung hahawak ng mga bata, hindi yung tapon mo na lang yan dyan, magturo sa ROTC. Because sisirain lang ang bata niyan, lalo pa magkakaroon ng problema tayo. Pagka naglagay kayo ng marunong lang magmura ng tactical officer, kung ano sila sabi sa mga bata, wala yan. And then third, if you're afraid of hazing, punish the hazers. We now have a law on hazing. Punish the school if they're not supervising them well. The school represents sub loco parentis in place of the parent. So kung hindi nila masiguro na yung kanilang coordinator dun sa ROTC ay hindi makokontrol, then they must be made aware that they will be punished, that there will be fines to pay. But do not eliminate it just because somebody died. I belong to a fraternity, and you know, there are good members of the fraternity and there are bad members, and you'll be doing us a favor if you kick bad members of the fraternity. You kick them out. But the essence is what we're really talking about, Mr. President, here. You can talk about everything here, but to me, kung tayo ay puntahan yung Batanes, imagine, Mr. President, Batanes is an island, northernmost. I have some questions there with our military. Meron tayong barko na galing sa Indonesia, ginawa. Sabi, nawawala na rin ang pagkain doon. Pwede natin dalhin yung mga ROTC students natin dyan, isa kanyo sa barko, dalhin nyo doon sa Batanes, and that's exposure. Di ba? But right now, we don't even bring the ship there, and then the headlines say, they need money, they need water. Then, you know, I don't want to carry my own bench here, but I will. The Red Cross is there giving water. We produce our own water, we produce our own food. The Red Cross is having tents all over the country now, and nobody tells us. Many of the things I'm doing now, I learned from commanding as an ROTC officer. How to make people move, how to motivate them. Those are the things we don't talk about here. If you're in the ROTC, you learn how to obey commands. And you learn that there's an order, kung ikaw binabastos ng officer mo, you can complain to the chain of command. But you know, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, if we're getting lost in the details, na going to the negatives, we are here to create good law. Everybody knows you're not going to get 15-year-old to fight. 18-year-olds, yes. Even in the Red Cross, I'm told you cannot allow them to fight because they're still, you're not allowed to have child soldiers. They do that in Africa, they do it elsewhere. But the point here is this. Is the Korean young man better than the Filipino? You know, there is an article going around, you Filipinos love your country, sabi ng Koreano. But we clean up every day. We were made to clean up by Park Chung-hee, and we were made to fight also. And do you remember, Mr. Chairman, we sent troops to Korea, and they respected us until now. Conrado Yap, Bonnie Serrano, these are people who went to Korea and died in Korea. I don't know if they're PMA, I don't know what they're. It doesn't matter. Blood is red, and it doesn't say you're from Ateneo, UP, or FPU, or whatever, or PMA. It just says you are properly motivated and you are a leader, Mr. Chairman. So having said all that, Mr. Chairman, I know I said a mouthful. I plea to the chair to really, to all of us here as senators, to really look at the overview of the matter. If we want citizen service, we need that. We need to give time. I even say 6 weeks in a year. You know, every weekend for the next until you make 6 weeks, you train, you march, etc., etc. Hindi katulad diba every Sunday, galit ka pa pag pupunta ka on a Sunday or a Saturday. Pero kung talagang alam mo, this weekend, that's ROTC duty, then I think they will learn more and they will learn to appreciate more. But insofar as soldiering is concerned, let's go to ROTC as a scholarship program. That is where we get future officers. That's where the military, who needs more officers, the PMA cannot supply all these officers. That's where we get officers, and we put money into a scholarship program, and we will get good officers. And let us train them, really train them, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, the last thing I want to say is this. If we teach our children to love our country, which you cannot teach at this age, actually, they have to experience it. If they're exposed to the military, if part of the training says, alam nyo, pinagtatawanan tayo eh. Wala tayong submarines. Noong araw, meron tayong F-86, nagpunta pa sa Congo. Ngayon, wala. Wala tayo. If you are immersed in the military, you will know what the military needs. You will know what our soldiers need. You will know that it's not just boots. They will know, yeah, you need tanks, they need a kind of strategy and tactics that you will have. And to my mind, the ROTC here will be a great motivator, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman. I know the chairman likes to be called Mr. President, but that's why I keep referring to him as Mr. President. The Commander-in-Chief. But Mr. Chairman, I would like to say here now, for all those things and many more, and I don't want to hug the microphone here, I think we should really try to reorient the debate and put that. If we want a backbone, citizen soldiers, train them now. If you want officers, do so. If you want a backbone for disasters or for elections or for whatever, do that now. But let us be serious. Let's put our money where our mouth is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Senator, thank you, Senator Gordon. Thank you for that emphatic, privileged speech. sigurado ho hindi
That's what I'm
makakalimutan.
known for.
Hindi ho makakalimutan yung sinabi niyo ng kaharap niyong mga kasama natin ho sa AFP. Thank you.
Mr.
Senator.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Coming over to this committee hearing, binuksan ko yung Philippine Star kanina. Magugulat kayo if you have a chance. May picture doon, training ng young lady high school students from India. ROTC. ROTC. Ngayon nabanggit ni Senator Gordon yung funding. I was glancing over while he was speaking. It is a position paper coming from a retired Marine officer of the U.S. Marine Corps about junior ROTC in the United States. 1996, they have a budget, U.S. Congress authorized a budget of $163 million for junior ROTC, representing 4% of the budget being spent by the federal government on youth development programs. Ganun kalaki. Ganun kalaki. And I mentioned a while ago the Malaysian experience. And let me quote something that probably might interest our AFP officers here. Noong 1970, March 2 to be exact, the late Mohammed Ismail, when they launched, ito yung pinipilit ko kanina kasi yung version ko merong police training. When they launched the Police Cadet Corps for the youth of Malaysia, ito yung sinabi niya. And this is also applicable, and I quote, "The overall objective is to make the cadet a responsible citizen of the future. He must yield a strong and healthy influence among his colleagues, friends, and family so that in the years ahead, there will be a new breed of enlightened good citizens contributing to nation building," unquote. That was 1970. Look at where Malaysia is now. 37th place, GDP, out of 196 countries. Dati lamang pa tayo sa Malaysia. In terms of ASEAN, number 3 ang Malaysia after Singapore and Brunei because they have a disciplined youth. I agree with what others stated a while ago that we cannot legislate discipline. We cannot legislate patriotism. We cannot legislate love of country. But we can at least, this Congress can set up the structure, the system, and mechanism wherein the state can foster discipline and love of country. Kaya naniniwala ako, Mr. Chair, kailangan na po siguro ipasa talaga itong ROTC Act. But again, to serve as the bridge between those reluctant and probably a little bit pessimist on going to the military side, I believe that the police training can serve as the civilian bridge. Yung law enforcement, yung anti-drug curriculum, yung leadership training, public speaking, traffic management, disaster preparedness, ito yung civilian aspect . So, again, I reiterate my stand, Mr. Chair, that a police training can be part of the ROTC component given that operationally we can implement it instantly, all senior high schools nationwide because of the presence of police forces and stations on a massive scale nationwide. Lahat na munisipyo meron . Pero hindi naman lahat ng munisipyo meron tayong battalions, di ba? Hindi lahat ng probinsya meron tayong brigades. Hindi lahat ng munisipyo meron tayong naval commands or even air force bases, di ba? Pero merong police. I fully support the ROTC bill spending with just one inclusion that a police training component be included to fast track everything and to set in place a mechanism wherein discipline can be fostered among our senior high school students nationwide. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, can I just add something to what he said? Very, very quickly. His Honor mentioned the Youth ROTC program of the U.S., and if I heard correctly, it was an amount of $163 million, which represents 4% of the youth budget in the Philippines. I will research, in the United States, I will research what is the youth budget in the Philippines, because I'm very curious with that figure. We are both supporters also of athletes, no? So sports is a big component of youth development. On that note, $163 million is equivalent to roughly 8 billion plus pesos, okay? They have a population of 327 million Americans. Based on the figures that I heard today, 5,000 will be spent, including, what was it, capital outlay, no? 5,000. And the number that I was given for the school year 2017 for senior high school grade 11 students is actually I don't know, the figure I have is 2,733,460. This is both senior high, so 11 and 12 already. Okay, so assuming this is accurate, 2.7 million students in senior high times 5,000, that amount is 13,667,000,000. Way above what the US is spending for a population that is 3 times its size. So just to put things in perspective, because I am very supportive of these programs, but pinipili nga yung programs. So that's what I want. Those are the details that I want to be able to see. How do we implement these programs so that we target we get the outcomes that we want, and we target the Attorney Danoy mentioned the most vulnerable, the 7 out of the 10 that will not go to college. They might need and might be good to have a different kind of program for them. That is simply my point, Mr. President.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair.
Just to add dun sa point ni Senator Pia, yung nabanggit ho ng DND is just the budget of DND. We are still awaiting the budget of DepEd, so the amount can go higher.
To clarify my previous statement, that the budget that I mentioned for the United States was circa 1996. And probably the reason why they have a higher budget here, because operationally we will have to have new structures, new infrastructure needs, new equipment to be purchased, vis-a-vis the United States, wherein a system which includes the National Guards, the federal, I mentioned the program about the Los Angeles Police having their own police youth training corps. So if you establish a new program, this is a reestablishment, necessarily, with due respect, you will have to spend more. And as what Senator Gordon mentioned a while ago, if you want to have an effective program, you really have to invest. You really have to invest. But just the same, the comments coming from Senator Cayetano is very timely, because we don't want to overutilize and make unnecessary expenditures here that would not redound to the effectiveness of this proposed ROTC program, Mr. Chair.
With the kind indulgence of our members, we have a few, or actually not few, we have a lot of resource persons who we want to get their opinion. But before we leave on the topic of budget, just for the information of the body, during the last hearing, we asked also the same, no? Magkano ba ang budget na kakailanganin natin to launch this program? And in the last hearing, we were made to understand that we will need approximately 3.2 million per school to launch an effective ROTC program nationwide. Ngayon, meron tayong approximately 11,817 senior high schools all over the nation. So if you multiply 11,800 times 3.2, lalabas to 38 billion pesos ang kakailanganin natin every year. Just to give you a perspective, ang budget natin for the free tuition fee in college is about 40 billion. So almost katumbas na ito. I share the sentiment, Senator Gordon. No? Ang presentation natin dito, Attorney Danoy, this is a new and improved ROTC. But if we cannot guarantee this 38 billion, and we will implement this haphazardly, then we will not see a new and improved ROTC dahil kulang ang pondo. So napakahalaga i-compute natin mabuti in behalf of the DND and the Department of Education kung magkano ba ang kakailanganan natin for this new and improved ROTC. And supportado ba ito ng executive. Dahil if we are looking at 38 billion, this is not chump change. Malaking pondo kakailanganin natin. And we don't want a scenario wherein magtitipid tayo, kukuha tayo sino-sino magtuturo, and tama Senator Gordon, problema tayo sa implementation. Then we will not see a new and improved ROTC. So we go back to the basics. First, magkano ba kailangan natin? Second, meron ba tayong pera para i-execute to? And I would require that from DND and DepEd later on submit to us
Mr. Chair.
in the committee so that we can look at this carefully.
Mr. Chair,
Senator Bato.
kadugtong lang nun, meron na napag-aralan niyo din ho ba kung will this be an additional expense for parents? Kasi katulad nung nabanggit ni Senator Gordon during his time, they had to pay for the uniforms.
Oh, you wanted to pay for it.
Oh, well, you wanted to pay for your uniforms, but with your proposal, meron ho bang mai-incur na gastos ang ating mga magulang?
Mr.
Who can answer the question?
Anyone?
Sige po, Mr. Rodriguez.
Ano ba to? Okay. I'm from National PTA. No? We organized the PTA since 2013. So, national na po kami. Okay. Ang problema po natin sa parents, it will incur additional burden for parents. Okay. Ang ano namin dito, ang gastos po niyan is yung uniform, additional tuition fees sa ano, and then field trips, mga ibang, so malaki po magiging gastos. Yung araw-araw na pag kami training, pupunta sa school, then, yan, okay, expenses po yan, marami, okay. Ang stand po namin dyan, kasi matagal ko nang nilagay sa Facebook yan, buti na imbita ako dito. So, ang ano dyan is, bakit gagawin sa DepEd? Okay, meron naman ho tayong military bases. Kasi kung gagawin po natin sa military bases, environment po, napakaganda po, doon talaga ang training. Kung gagawin po natin sa sa school, ano po yan? Source of corruption. Okay, ang daming problema sa field na nararanasan namin. We're receiving 5 complaints every day na hindi ina-address ng DepEd. Okay, sa field po ito ha. Okay, meron ho tayo dyan, pagka gastos po yan, sa field trip na po, sa camping, okay, source of corruption po yan. Ang mga hindi po nakakasama dyan, pag gagawin ng another project, okay, na-experience ko po yan nung high school ako. Okay, yung uniform from shoes to okay, marami po tayong underprivileged children na hindi po nakakasama. And then, tawag dito. Yun, ito yung mga namin dyan, yung source of corruption yan pagka sa DepEd ginawa at hindi pa po ready. Ang daming kulang ng DepEd. We're supposed, kung maaari, tulad ng ginagawa sa Singapore, sa Korea, do it in military bases. Wag po sa schools. Yun lang po ang stand
Thank you,
namin.
Senator Bato.
Mr. Chair, I just would like to react on the problem of the budget. I hope yung kakulangan sa budget, hindi ito magiging cause para hindi maibalik yung ROTC sa ating mga paaralan. Dahil, alam po ninyo, ako'y anak lang ng tricycle driver. Bakit ako muntik na nakatapos ng advance sa ROTC? Because ang kabataan, if you love your country, willing ka magpakamatay sa bansa mo. May uniforme ka man o wala, may combat boots ka man o wala. Kung gusto mo talagang ipakita yung patriotism mo, talagang gusto mo mag-ROTC. So sana hindi mo discourage yung kabataan na mag-ROTC dahil walang pera. Hindi po yan maging rason. Ginagawa lang nilang excuse yan. Ako, nag-ROTC ako noon, nanghihiram ako ng combat boots kung saan-saan. Nanghihiram ako ng uniforme kung saan-saan. Because I love my country. I'm willing to die for this country. Paano natin ma-develop pabalik yung patriotism ng kabataan kung palagi lang tayong sabi nga ni sino ba yung presidente ng US, do what you can do, ask what you can do for your country, not what your country can do for you. Bakit ganun? Palagi lang tayo, sige, budget. Magiging haphazard daw. Huwag natin i-discourage. Kasi marami ngayong kabataan na gustong mag-ROTC dahil gusto nila mag-service sa kanilang bansa. Ulitin ko, muntik akong graduate ng Advanced ROTC. Kung hindi ako pumasa ng PMA, nakagraduate ako ng Advanced ROTC by just manghiram na papunta ako sa sa kampo ng Army noon. Yung Army, sir, Sabado na po bukas. Pwede ba ako makahiram na combat boots mo bukas para makapag-ROTC ako? Sabihin ng sargento, sige dong, manghiram, gamitin mo yung combat boots ko. Sir, uniforme mo, sir. Mayroon akong ready na nimpats dito na Cadet Captain De La Rosa. For Sabado lang, sir, dikit ko sa uniforme mo para makamarch ako doon. Ganun po. Huwag natin i-discourage ang kabataan sa ROTC because of budget. Kasi kung budget ang ating gawing stamping block for this, yung mga kabataan madi-discourage, mawala sa kanila yung patriotism. Yun lang po, Mr. President. Thank you.
PTA po is for ROTC po kami. Diretso po ang ROTC, youth formation po yan, napakahalaga po yan sa disiplina ng mga bata. Lalo na po sa panahon ngayon.
Sige, sir, babalikan namin kayo, ha,
okay.
please.
Mr. Chairman, in my prefatory remarks, I said ROTC ay investment. Investment ng gobyerno, investment ng bansa, investment ng pamilya, investment ng tao yan. Because kung ikaw ROTC officer ka, pag nag-apply ka sa trabaho, sabi mo, ROTC officer ako eh. Lamang ka sa trabaho dyan. Pangalawa, tayo mga Pilipino, alam ko, naintindihan ko yung mga ibig sinasabi. Kasi tayo nasasanay na we are pampered by our government. Lahat binibigay na sa atin eh. 4Ps, and dahil. Kailangan may tungkulin naman tayo. I will give you an example. Pagdating sa mga drum and lyre corps, lahat ng eskwela may drum and lyre. Naku po, talagang kung todo makeup, kung todo uniforme, kung may kending, bumibili ng mga batingting, mga kuno, di ba? Hindi kumikit. Nasabi ko lang yun para magising kayong lahat. Anyway, but to my mind, Mr. President, this is a need. So, ang suggestion ko, we don't have to do it all at the same time. We can do ROTC as a scholarship program muna, or we can start doing it on selected areas muna para we learn how to do it. Hindi na pilot, yung mga kwan. We can do that. Kung kulang sa budget, then let's do that. Pero yung kulang na yun, dapat sagad. Para pag nakita ng tao, may kinalalabasan, hindi magagalit ang tao dyan. Because, syempre, lalo na, ako nung araw, when I was in the ROTC, when my father saw me, he never encouraged me to do it. But he saw me that I was an officer. I knew he was proud. My mother was proud. They were both high school graduates. But, wow, gusto nila, naka-uniform yung anak nila ngayon na ganyan, no? But it's not the uniform that they like. It's the fact that I volunteered. I went the extra way and the extra lap to improve myself, to improve my personality as a leader. And that's what I'm trying to say. ROTC, the military, lahat yan, there are ways to improve our character. And if we do it right, we'll have a better country, Mr. President. Kaya dapat huwag natin biglayin. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Sir Gordon. And again, we go through our resource persons one by one. Commodore Enriquez, meron mo kayong, aside from what you said earlier, do you have any more comments?
May I just, Mr. Chairman, answer the query of the MPST, of the PTA? Actually, in the proposed bill, I think we can read there that there will be no uniforms or combat boots required because it will be the program of instruction will be done during weekdays and in the classrooms. So wala na po yung formation. They will be taught military drills and ceremonies inside the campus, inside the classroom. So wala na sir yung required na uniforms under the proposal.
Is that your proposal?
I think sir na yun ang nakalagay ngayon sa mga proposals sir.
No, not in my bill.
I understand sir. So there is a proposal, sir, that the program of instructions will be done not on Saturdays, but on weekdays.
It doesn't matter, Mr. Chairman. Weekday, weekend, doesn't matter. It's the quality of the instruction.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, to my mind, Mr. Chairman, when you do something, let's do it right. Tingnan sa PMA, binibihisa niya, may shako. Di naman nila magagamit yung shako pagkatapos ng military cadet. I was looking at my classmate Ricky Delgado came out with a Pan American Airways advertising. They showed PMA in 1961 or 60. And my gosh, everybody looked good. I mean, those were the times when everybody did something really well. It is important that we realize that if we're going to do something, we must do it well. Hindi civil minimum. Palagi tayong minimum wage, palagi tayong, bisa mo na, bakit siya, meron, ako wala. So, hahatiin natin yung pera, walang makakaabot na tama. So, to my mind, Mr. Chairman, it is important to know that what we're going to do here will help in the formation and development of a country for all the reasons aforestated. If it helps in patriotism, fine. It makes us more secure in our defense, fine. If we have more manpower during disasters, fine. And that is why it is important that we put the right budget there, not for somebody to steal. Uniforms are provided to us, but we paid for it at the time. Maybe if we cannot afford the uniform, if people cannot afford that, then, well, you know, I'm sure kami, we went the extra way, and some of us were not well endowed in Ateneo. Akala nyo, mayayaman ang Ateneo. Marami sa amin talagang nagbabayad ng uniforme na maganda talaga para, syempre, nakakalamang sa mga babae nung araw. Pagka magde-date, maganda yung kanilang uniforme. Kasama lahat siya sa PMA, lakas man loko ng mga kadete nung araw. Kalaban namin niya sa debate, darating doon, andun ng Women's University, magdi-debate kami, pagalingan, and you know, they like the uniform. So, I'm just setting it aside para everybody can appreciate the fact that in context, the rule must be, you want a military, make it the best military. You want a school, make it the best school. You want a country, make us the best Filipinos in science, in mathematics, in military training, and everything. That should be the philosophy. Not, naku, mahirap yan, hindi natin kaya yan. Naku, wala tayong pera. Ang Japan, walang pera nung ginawa nila yung kanilang major restoration. In 30 years, they sunk the whole fleet of the Russians in the Battle of Tsushima. Ganon rin ang Koreano. Nag-iba sila noong 1950s. Ngayon, tayo pa binibigyan ng Corvette, tayo binibigyan ng jet, tayo binibigyan. Kakahiya tayo eh. Why? Because ang thinking natin, hindi natin kaya. Ang thinking natin, mahirap lang tayo. Dapat ang thinking natin, can do. And that is what is good about the military. Must do. Can do. You have a mission, you have to fulfill it. In the military, dapat maayos tayo. Pero dapat walang abuso, walang corruption. And I think we can do that if we do it in parts. And once we see that it's working, then you can have a total program going. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator De La Rosa, any comments? Okay na, all right. Sir?
Sir, I thank the Senator Gordon for those awards, sir. I was hoping that Senator Marcos would be present. Yung sinabi niyang kakulangan namin, sir, maganda sana kung i-concretize natin into more support for the armed forces to better our reserve force. If I may recall, sir, during my time, most of our times here, we did ROTC, and it was really a fact then that 70 to 75% of the officers of the armed forces came from the ROTC Corps, ROTC. So, maano yun, sir, kailangan namin yung i-continue. And I would like to reiterate my stand that kung bakit natin kailangang ituloy ang ROTC, because we need prepared men and individuals to handle the defense of our country. Yung argument po kanina na i-compare mo yung isang walang training saka sa may training, however hazard the training when baby, lamang na lamang talaga yun. Bigyan mo ako, sir, ng isang high school graduate o college graduate na between age 18 to 35. I would gladly pick Attorney Reyes here over that individual. Why? Because I know Attorney Reyes has graduated from the UP Vanguards. ROTC, sir, yung katabi niyo po, sir, on your left. Kasi ano, sir, I know that he had the training before, compared doon sa mga walang training ngayon. So that was the point, sir. So ang point ng armed forces is we need the manpower who are trained to be called whenever the circumstances will arise in the defense of our nation. Yung for a personal military standpoint, sir, from a point of view, yung mga love of country, yung mga dapat noon pa yung bata pa tayo, sir. Pero this could be enhanced in this program. As a military officer, I see that in the future we'll be needing men who can be easily governed and will follow orders. Because mahirap na yung we will be training them when the time is there na kailangan na natin sila. So preparation lang yung hinihingi namin, sir. So I also would like to defer to the stand of the department, sir.
Thank you, Commodore Enriquez. Any comments from the members of the armed forces other than what the J9 mentioned? Since the J9 is the officer in charge of the ROTC. Sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, I was elated by the opening statement of Senator Marcos when she said that this program should start as early as elementary and to continue even up to college, tertiary, okay? And likewise with the comment of Senator Tolentino, where it requires another additional training for the police. I said I was elated because I had the occasion to listen and hear speeches of principals, teachers, head of decks, wherein they have the same observation. Every time they visit schools and ask the children on what they want to be when they grow old, majority of them said, I want to be a police or I want to be a military. And they said, why? Because I want to serve our country. Ibig sabihin, parang inside sa mga bata, yung love of country, but the problem is how to maintain and how to develop it. So I think this is not the main solution, but this is part of the solution. Imagine in elementary, we are being taught how to, yung tinatawag lang home economics. Although we can learn this in our house. But how to defend the country despite of the fact that we have a constitutional mandate to serve the country when the need arises. So we really need this because these training are not, at present, are not being taught in school. That's why we really need this discourse. Gentlemen, ladies, probably you will agree with me now, especially yung mga millennials. Ito, problema natin yung mga magulang, na minsan, ang buhay ngayon is different from before, wherein sinasabi natin family, but nowadays, hindi kaya ng isang magulang na nagtatrabaho, minsan dalawa tayo. We seldom see our children in the houses. Kailangan natin, there must be an institution like schools wherein to maintain this sense of patriotism. Minsan, mga problema natin ngayon, mga millennials, pag uwi natin ng bahay, nag-aaway tayo ng mga anak natin dahil lagi nilang gadgets. They don't care ang mga nangyayari. Away natin, anong problema natin? That's why we are looking a measure wherein our children can probably actively, physically, and this is another solution. Etong problema natin, ang mga millennials ngayon, laging gadgets na lang. Wala na silang pinag-aabalahan, wala na silang pakialam sa mga nangyayari sa lipunan nila. So we need to develop this implied sense of patriotism. Dapat, sir, siguro we have to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Galit po si Senator Binay, millennial pa yan. Millennial pa. Anyone from the UP Vanguard?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Guido Delgado, National Commander of the UP Vanguard. Mr. Chair, the UP Vanguard's position emanates from the constitutional mandate enshrined in our 1986 Constitution, 87 Constitution, that all citizens must undergo civic military training, and a second operating word is that all of these citizens who are trained can be mobilized. So these are the two operating terms in the Constitution. So therefore, the objectives of a mandatory ROTC should be, number one, to enhance the ability to enlist the youth into the AFP Reserve Force. Second is to enhance the ability to mobilize this reserve force. Third, the training for these purposes must be financially prudent. And lastly, territorial defense is not the only need today. You need disaster relief, and peace and order are also needs of the time. Therefore, given the current bills And I was about to say, I wanted to compliment Senator Gordon earlier. I think we reviewed all the bills that are pending today in the Senate. Other than the Senate Bill 927 proposed by Senator Gordon, we believe that none of the bills being proposed will meet the constitutional mandate for military training of a reserve force and mobilization. And I would like to ask Attorney Reyes to explain.
Well, sir, very simply, I think we just defined exactly the objective that what the Vanguard position is all about. The objective that is actually the goal. The goal actually is to provide the citizen service that is called for by the times. That's our answer to the Constitution. And you cannot answer the Constitution by providing for a kind of citizen service that does not or pretends to be non-military. And that is what's happening with all of the other bills. In its desire not to violate the optional protocol, they have called it a mere registration, a mere database, a non-incorporation into the reserve. Hindi po yun yung hinihingi ng Constitution eh. Ang sabi ng Constitution nga, mandatory eh. Di ba? So, ang solusyon po, wag po natin gawin sa grades 11 and 12. Yun lang naman po ang sinasabi namin. Bakit po natin ipagpipilitan na yung mga mura pa at mga bata pa na inaaruga naman ng DepEd, doon natin gagawin ito? No, nasabi na rito again and again, it's been repeated. No, I think all of the senators have echoed this view that somehow the matter of patriotism or nationalism may be too late at grades 11 and 12. So in the view of the Vanguard, that is not the object of any legislation that these committees that are here involved today should come up with. What we are asking for is not an additional course somewhere where you can teach these things. We're only asking that you provide the opportunity for the demonstration of patriotism and nationalism. Because involvement in service of this nature is an opportunity, and it is bigger than yourself. It was mentioned here. I just can't recall which senator mentioned it. No, its service of this nature is bigger than yourself. Hence, our next objective, that it can't be just the military service. Because if it's only military service, it already fully answers the Constitution 100%. If we just stayed there. But if we just stayed there, we also did not answer the needs of the times. Over the past 10 to 15 years, we've really had no war. Nabanggit po ni Senator Gordon, bakit ang mga Amerikano, they're so patriotic, they're so nationalistic, they're so patriotic in a sense, public display of patriotism. Kasi bawat henerasyon nila may gera. Tayo po hindi. Subversion, internal strife, yun po yung nangyayari sa atin eh. Hindi po yun yung nagdi-develop niyan because this is divisive. But, dahil tayo po nag-aaway. Pero darating po yung panahon na maari po na meron tayong kaaway na iba. Diba? So, kailangan po yung unang paghandaan. Pero hindi lang po yun. Dahil nga, over our history, wala pa naman tayong okasyon na gano'n na nangyari, na may lumusob sa atin eh. No? So, habang pinaghahandaan po natin yun, ano pa ba ho yung ibang pangangailangan? At dalawa doon sa mga iyon, kasama po doon sa core curriculum projects ng proposed Senate bill ni Senator Gordon, no? Which is actually disaster preparedness to include rehabilitation and yung sinasabi ni Senator Tolentino kanina, internal security. That is actually the role of the police, which is crucial because I think we also forgot that under the 1987 Constitution, one very important change was the change in the character of the police from a branch of the military, PC, naging Civilian Philippine National Police. It's now a civilian police force. It is outside and independent of the military. Now, together with that, yung dating konsepto ng reserve training po natin, nawala ho sila. They were actually removed from that development. Kaya wala rin po silang reserve. They do not have a reserve. Dati meron po through the PC. Pero dahil nawala na po yun, doon po sa mga ating gustong iakda, dapat po maibalik po yun. So hindi po pwede na sabihin natin na iisa lang po ang magiging end user ng miski na anumang batas na ating ipapasa. Dahil hindi na lang po military ang pangangailangan. Isa lang po yon sa mga importanteng pangangailangan. It is there, it is important. So pagka youth sector po, yung huling-huling criteria lang po namin gustong banggitin ay yung financial responsibility. And it is not, as Senator Bato might fear, na pagka hindi kaya natin sa pera, ay wag na lang natin gawin. Ang sinasabi lang po namin ganito, there is no debate that there are probably 3 times more grades 11 and 12. During the hearing last, Senator Gatchalian, Secretary Briones gave some figures to there, no? She shared with us that maybe the number is not 10 million as was told to us during the previous Congress. The number might be closer to 6. Kasi daw, doon sa baba, paunti ng paunti. But what surprised us was the number of high schools. According to her, there are 46,000 high schools and 14 public schools. And there are 14,000 schools, no? So, marami ho yung eskwela. So, kung babanggitin natin yung kaninang 3.2 million per school, hundreds of billions ang kakailanganin pera for the two. So, ano po yung aming financial prudence? Hindi man po natin kayaning gawin ng tama sa grades 11 and 12 dahil sobrang dami nila. Kaya ho natin gawin yan kung sa kolehiyo. Dahil doon po sa kolehiyo, whether we say it is 4 million, 10 million, or 6 million, we will go down to a figure of 1.5 to 2 million only. And what is the advantage of training 1.5 to 2 million? Una po, mas mature. Pangalawa, sigurado po na when the training is completed, 18 na po yung mga yan. Meron din po kasing binanggit na data ang DepEd. And we are happy that they shared it with us, Senator Gatchalian. Ang sabi po nila, diretso pong tanong eh.
Attorney, can we wrap up already?
Yes, sir. Ito lang po, yung diretsuhan tanong. Ilan ang magiging 18 na pag-graduate, pag nakumpleto ang training? Sabi nila, at the highest, 82% lang. So meron pa ring 18% that we will surely violate. And we have to avoid that, no? Very simply, you make it 100%, go to college. Pag doon ka sa college nag-training, kaya natin i-afford, 100%, hindi na sila minor de edad, at kaya nating gawing tama. Mas maganda yung training, may pondo, ayos lahat. Doon sa suggestion ni Senator Gordon, dahil nga multidisciplinary at marami ng departamentong involved, hindi na lang po ilalagay yan sa militar. Hindi na lang po ilalagay sa DepEd. Meron na po tayong single point of responsibility sa suggestion niya na may komisyon. At yung komisyon na yon, walang ibang trabaho. Pag pumalpak siya, siya lang ang pwede natin sisihin. Wala na po siya pwedeng ituro. Yun po ang maganda.
All right, thank you.
We can build on it.
Thank you, Attorney Reyes. Father Tabora of Cocopea.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I have submitted a position paper to the committee through you. It has been placed in on the records. As you know, Cocopea has had a critical stance relative to the ROTC bill. But when you told us that you were serious about passing ROTC, we have been taking a second look at it. And I'd really like this morning, on the basis of what I've read what I've written in my paper, to agree with Senator Gordon that I really believe that what is lacking is some form of a clear vision that would be common to all of the Senate bills. And personally, I feel that if we are working from the constitutional provision, that we should be ready to, that the youth should be ready to come to the defense of the country in case of an emergency, that the ROTC bill should focus on military skills and capabilities, and not on police training, and not on the other aspects that have been mentioned. I think if one looks closely at the constitutional provision, which mandates a response to emergencies in defense of the country, it's really there. It's in the defense of the country where personal military or civil service should be rendered, and not civil service in general. So I think an ROTC program, if implemented, should focus on military training that is meaningful, and not the type of military training that we experienced in the past, very ably described by Senator Gordon. Much of it just walking up and down, drilling and doing this and that, that really does not contribute to a greater capability, military capability in the future. I think we have to also take into consideration the context, the military context of the country today. I am representing also Ateneo de Davao, where we are deeply involved in the peace process and working with the military in the peace process. The concept and the self-understanding of the military today, I submit, is not just violence using a macho type of skill to kill the enemy, but the way the military goes about its affairs in Mindanao today is very clearly also in the service of dialogue, reconciliation, and peace building. I think that if you put in an ROTC mandatory training in our senior high schools, this aspect of military engagement today must not be neglected. That while defense must be efficient and able, one should also be trained in the history of Mindanao, the history of conflict in Mindanao, the ability in Mindanao to mediate the conflict that we have there. Finally, sir, it's in my paper. I would like to say, I think we should be able to exploit the competencies that are coming out of our schools, not only on the high school level, the senior high school levels, but also on the college levels, where those who love their country and would like, in a case of emergency, to contribute to an effort against an enemy, they may be involved not necessarily in direct combat, but in essential services such as engineering, information technology, civil engineering, communications technology, and the like. I think it may be good to be able to put on database such skills that are being formed in our schools today, and make them available to the military in case of emergency. No, and therefore I think, because of a possible eventuality of war, the military should appreciate that the building of competence in these skills is absolutely essential for a successful military effort in case of emergency. And that's why, Senator Tolentino, I was a little bit shocked when I read in your exceptions that you would accept from the effects of your bill varsity players. No, I really could not see that. I mean, if this is essential, if it's essential for the defense of the nation, why exempt varsity players when you may wish instead of that to exempt people who are doing extraordinarily well in engineering or in information technology or the like. And I'm a priest, I also did not appreciate why you are exempting ecclesiastics, as you said, because priests do play roles in the military as chaplains and the like, and in a military where you're also mediating peace, it may be important to bring in even future priests and future pastors into the military effort. But I would like to invite you to see the paper that I have written. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Sharon.
If I may react, I think priests should be, I stand corrected, should be included, but we don't have seminarians yet for grades 11 and 12, if I'm not mistaken. As regards the varsity, I reiterate again, I was an ROTC Ateneo Air Force student, Father. As to the varsity players, I think the matter of time that one can devote in a rigorous military training, hand in hand with your physical activity as a varsity player, would probably be a factor when we crafted that bill. Undergoing extensive physical training, psychological training, even during weekends, if you're an Ateneo varsity player, I think will consume much of your time, not to mention your physical, the physical resources needed. But I agree that there should be no exemption. I'm willing to recorrect that portion of that bill. But I'm just stating that the matter of physicality in terms of a grade 11 or grade 12 student probably might be too taxing health-wise. You have to have your studies, you have to attend to your academics, you have to attend to your practices, you have to attend to your Blue Bubble Battalion activities, and then you have your ROTC. Probably this might be too taxing for a grade 11 or grade 12. But
Your Honor, I think I was
correct that, Reverend Father.
Yeah, Your Honor, I think I was really trying simply to say, if we do serious military training on the senior high school level or even on the college level, it will take time, no? And it will take away valuable time from the students, some of whom are using their time really to study. Therefore, just to underscore, if we do it, I agree, let's do it well. Let's make it meaningful. Let's not make it just drilling up and down and wasting people's time. You know, let's really hone skills that can be of military value in the future, and let's organize the military in such a way that these skills can be called up in a military eventuality in the future.
Mr. Chair, for the record, Father, I was the one a few years ago who espoused the inter-ROTC basketball tournament here in Metro Manila. For the record, Father.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chairman.
May I just react, because I also, although it was put on record that my bill has not reached some, probably also Father Tabora, I also included the exception of the varsities, and I'd like to expound on that a little bit in to also address the whole issue here. The issue really goes back to what Senator Gordon pointed out. What is the vision? If we are preparing for external invasions, then how will that happen? Is that not going to happen with the push of the button? would not the preparedness be in terms of our students being the best in engineering, the best in chemical engineering, for possible chemical warfare, psychology, sociology, history, as Father pointed out, externally also understanding why our neighboring countries would have conflicts with us. All of these, and healthcare. We already have a shortage of healthcare workers who will take care of the soldiers in case of an invasion. So my point is exactly what Father Tabor is pointing out. We need to strategize where your human resources are needed. Not everyone would be needed in focusing on those drills, which, forgive me for my lack of understanding, is what I have read into the bills and how the training I received as a COTC trainee, which I loved, by the way, kasi mahilig ho ako sa physical activity. So yun lang pinopoint out ko, paano kailangan nyo explain sa amin ng maigi yun. Now, if we're talking about the 7 out of 10 that may be unemployed, as Attorney Danoy mentioned, will never go to college, may not even finish high school, then those are probably the ones that would want to or be useful in terms of different kinds of training, whether that's to address internal conflict, I don't know. But we have to differentiate and recognize what is the purpose of all this training. And in terms of the exceptions, in my bill, I specifically said that students who are undergoing similar programs, such as, but not limited to, student council officers, varsity athletes, would be exempted from similar programs. In other words, in high school nowadays, a lot of varsity players can be training at a minimum of 10 hours a week, on top of graduating, some of them even with honors. I wouldn't want those students to have to spend X number of hours marching. But then, you could be recruiting them for your highly specialized engineering programs of the future. That's why my bill also includes career development, because I would like to think that there's not just one track in the military course, correct? Can I get a response? Is that just one track that we're looking at? Surviving drilling under the sun? May I get a response from any of the... Is there just... That's my question. Is it just one track that we are looking at for the ROTC high school? Because right now, you're talking about high school. That is the program that you're proposing. What is the track? Just surviving under the sun?
Mr. Chair, Madam Secretary, I agree with your point on the drills, but we have to understand the historical basis of the drills. 19th century po, linear warfare ang labanan ng armies ng 19th century. And the drill is part of that type of warfare. Modern armies now po, in fact, in some modern armies, hindi na sila nagpaparada eh. So, we can actually calibrate the drills para po kaunti na lang, just the basic. Then we immediately shift to more training on tactics. It's an issue of the program of instruction or POI.
And that's very interesting. Thank you for clarifying that, because like I said, I was very avid and I looked forward to my COTC drills. But, you know, again, as Father pointed out, we want to be sure that the programs would be suited to the skills that we want to develop from our, not just youth, you know, under 18, but the young people. So I think we'll need to really see that, Mr. Chair, that cannot be left to the rules and regulations. Doon po ako takot na takot. And who are also these experts who will be teaching this? And I go back to the exceptions. My exceptions would be to excuse those already performing physical activities like varsity players. That's the reason why we have that, I believe, with Senator Francis. But not only the physical activity, the discipline. I was about to say when, I think it was Colonel Enriquez who said, I'm not sure if it was you who said that the first person you will think of is Attorney Gilbert Reyes, because you know that he is a vanguard, no? For whatever purpose it is that you need him. Ako naman po, the first type of people that I think of are athletes. Because sila naman yung kilala ko. Sila yung kilala ko na gumigising ng 3:45 in the morning to get to their training, arrive also on time, to do push-ups also if they're late, to run around the track even though they don't even have a track, and to perform. And then, umiiyak tayo pag nanalo sila ng medal sa ibang bansa. Tama ho ba? Umiiyak tayo. That's where our pride comes from. So I would also look at the athletes in terms of having developed the discipline, having gone through the rigors of physical activity. So I just want to put my point out there that there are different ways to develop nationalism and there are different components. So I would still want these athletes to undertake the component on disaster risk management. Dahil baka naman sa kaka-training nila, hindi na sila na-expose doon. And there are varsity athletes. We have one, I'm so proud of her. She's actually taking up medicine now in the UP College of Medicine. She was the varsity captain of the UP volleyball team and ngayon nagme-medicine. So na-manage niya pareho yon. So these are those who can, like Father said also, database, be recruited for whatever purpose. Not her, baka i-text niya ako, ba't pinapa-recruit ko siya. But I think you get my point. And I really feel so strongly that, Mr. Chair, either we have a few more hearings or we have, kasi hindi pa ho na-hear yung bill ko. So in fairness lang naman sa tinrabaho namin, a lot of which are aligned with points raised here. We have more hearings and technical working groups. I also want to bring in other speakers. I leave it up to the chair if we'll finish the remaining speakers, but I also want to bring in speakers because what I have not even pointed out in my bill, which I'm saving for you to read, is that we haven't even talked about soft security issues. The issues that I'm hearing about are really hard security. Well, disaster risk is a little bit on the soft side. And that requires listening to the expert. Those are, the West Philippine Seas is a soft security issue. And I don't pretend to be the expert. Just because I attended a course on this doesn't suddenly make me the expert, but I do know a little bit about it. So I'd like to hear this because this is what we need to prepare for. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all for now.
Thank you. Senator Gordon.
Just a few remarks, Mr. Chairman. Number one, on the matter of athletes, Joe Louis, Elvis Presley, Henry Kissinger, they were all privates, became sergeants later on and became Secretary of State later on. So they really show no, anyway, when there's a war, you get everybody that you can get, and they're enlisted men. So that's not the problem. Secondly, I just want to point out that we're talking here not of quantity but of quality. In the past, it was quantity. You had all kinds of training sa ROTC, pero it was a joke. A lot of them did not consider it serious stuff, except before World War II. Many of the people who died in Bataan or who fought in Bataan were ROTC products. Teria de Boso. You have a lot of people, Burgos, Perez Burgos, if I'm not mistaken, his family name is, I was with him in the Ateneo alumni, he was also from Lasal. He fought in Bataan, suffered privation. Alfredo Ceres Burgos, I'm sorry. So you have quite a few people who fought. You know, Marking was not an ROTC, but they fought. Point is, when there is a war, duty first must come in, and that's why the Constitution provides that. We're not asking for policemen here. I would object to it if you're going to ask for policemen. Because President Duterte just announced he's hiring 37,000 policemen more. And they're going to put up 100 million for facilities of the police. What we need is for external defense. And they must have the training required. And some of the things that Senator Cayetano said, you know, you could even, depending on their skills, you can spot where you can actually put them in terms of more specific rifle shooting, their training. Medicine, you know, cyber, for those who are involved in information technology. Those are things, but that's really, really down the line. The preliminary thing is to get basic training, discipline, you know. They must learn that. And to my mind, the best example is Israel. I'm not going to even mention Singapore, you know. Singapore prides itself as being the Israel row of Southeast Asia with a population so little. Israel, at the time, had a very few population, about 900,000 people, I think, when they got their independence. And they started fighting right away. No time for training, practically. They had a ragtag air force, which they got from Czechoslovakia. They used Messerschmitt planes from the Nazi Germany, and they fought, and they made it happen. And through the years, Israel has become a power in its own right, even as nuclear capability. They don't wait until they have all the money. They don't wait until everything is perfect. They require women. I was there. My God, good-looking women, college women were there carrying M16s along with their classmates. I'm also referring also to college, not high school. Let the guys finish high school. But when you come to closer to 18 years old and stuff like that, and you're already in college, that's when the training should come in. If you can't do it in the first 2 years, you have to do it in the next third year and fourth year if you like, if you want to make some adjustments. But the point is, the bottom line is, you have seen it in many of the posters in World War II. Uncle Sam needs you for the Americans. Your country needs you. Or the fighting bastards of Bataan. These were posters I remember seeing at the time. And that's important for us as a country, to have a feeling of self, that the soul of the country is ready, not just for the military, but for the civilians, young people, especially those who have been trained in ROTC, to willingly train and learn how to be disciplined in formations, how to march correctly, how to work as a team. And that is why it's important that we know the vision of what we're going to do here. So, Mr. Chairman, there are many things I'd like to say more, but I think I cannot say it enough. I think the bottom line is, every day, you could have one in Sabah. I remember Mr. Marcos was organizing a force to go to Sabah, to take Sabah. Or for that matter, there was a time when, I don't know if the military is ready to admit it, when there were some pirates from Sulu who attacked some Malaysians. The Malaysians attacked Sulu, a village in Sulu. And, we just kept quiet about it. Or for that matter, when you have people out there, when our Coast Guard shot a Taiwanese boat, right away they came back to us and they demanded, and we had to prosecute our own Coast Guardsmen. So it's not just really a question of overfishing, question of defense of the country, to prepare for external defense. You have to have the commitment, and it's not gotten by forcing them to drill up and down. It should be a whole cultural immersion, a good program which tells us the history of our country, the history of the ROTC, and going through the drills and going through what can happen in the future, even discussions on the geopolitical situation. This is what you need to do para it becomes meaningful. Otherwise, we'll be reactionary. I hear comments like, oh, they will be taken by the NPA. I have heard that before. I have friends. Benito Tierra Glor was my contemporary in UP, and he died in an encounter. Ed Hobson, Father Tabora will remember that. We were in the UP together. We were in the NUS, and I was in the student council at the time in the UP, and Ed Hobson also tried to be in the student council in UP, and he died there. Sure, those things happen because the government has not been able to fix the social situation in our country, the inequalities. And that's where the enemies of the state, if you want to call them enemies, or if you really want to call them patriots, they excel in saying, this is what's wrong with the country. We're not able to equalize. We're not able to address the poverty of our people. Don't give them that excuse. Right now, we are putting in a lot of money in education, but we must also put our money in terms of external defense. I would not want to see ROTC boys going into combat against our own countrymen. When that happened in Marawi, I shook the hand of a lieutenant in Congress, in the lower house. And I told him it must be very difficult for you to fight against your own fellow Filipinos. To be wounded, to see your men being killed, and to see the other side being killed. And I saluted him. And I meant it. Because I think it is important to remember that the military can do that. The police can handle subversion. But the military is therefore to defend and protect the country according to the Constitution. And in that pursuit, the government may require all citizens to render personal, military, or civil service. That's what the Constitution says. So let's focus on that. Let's not go to all kinds of, exhibitions. Focus on that. You know, you may say it's far-fetched, but look at what happened to Poland. When Hitler attacked them, they had soldiers in cavalry, in horses, and they were decimated by the blitzkrieg of Nazi Germany. You cannot wait until everybody's, we're going to war already. We must prepare. That's what Quezon tried to do, and it was too late, even for Quezon. So today, I strongly support this bill, and let's all put our heads together, and let's try to get the best. Give it the tools so that they can finish the job. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Gordon. Father Taboria, are you done with your comments? And also, I think Attorney Estrada's raising. Attorney, let's focus on the on your. Let's go straight to your opinion. To your.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the past Congress, we raised some practical concerns. If we want to or we intend to implement a serious ROTC program on military training, we raised the issue on curriculum spaces. And right now, if we are thinking of implementing ROTC during weekdays, I think we'll have a problem on a very congested senior high curriculum. It's already filled up. Number two, on physical spaces, where do we hold the actual military training? We have raised this before. Also, the AFP personnel to be deployed in the 11,000 or more than 11,000 senior high schools. That's also a problem. But on the more substantial issues, we notice now that the bills now include have been expanded to include patriotism, nationalism, or student discipline, and no longer focused on military training. So for the schools, this also becomes an issue because formation of students and discipline is a primary responsibility of the schools. And in fact, this falls under the principle of in loco parentis, and in fact, it's a source of liabilities for us also. And this extends to persons or agencies that schools contract with. So whether it is through military training by the AFP, this responsibility over our students remain in the school. And as already mentioned earlier, we cannot legislate discipline. And we're more concerned about the manner of teaching discipline and who shall be designated to teach this. Because again, this is a primary function of the schools. We also would like to invite the committee again, as we did in the past Congress, to do an evaluation of the NSTP program under the current law, because it already includes ROTC and other components, and it seems again that we are expanding the subject of the bills, not merely focusing on military training, and that's already included in the current NSTP law. And there are other unimplemented provisions in the current NSTP law, as found by the Commission on Higher Education in the previous hearings in the past Congress, like assistance to students in the ROTC for uniforms, boots, and even scholarships. And the mandatory ROTC for all students in state universities and colleges under the implementing rules of the current NSTP law has not been implemented. And under current CHED policies, CMOs, for criminology programs and maritime programs, this is already mandatory for students enrolled in these programs. And so the thrust, just to shorten our position, the thrust of the position of private sector, education sector, is we want to be clarified on the policy of the state in enacting a law that goes back to mandatory ROTC from the current NSTP law, and now mandating it in senior high school program. And also, of course, when we start discussing exemption, we believe that then it defeats mandatoriness, and the reason why we are, in the first place, going back to mandatory ROTC from the current NSTP law. And more importantly, we requested in the past Congress an evaluation of the NSTP program on whether the dangers for which the law was passed were already eliminated. Because in fact, the education sector supported the passage of the NSTP law. And are there enough mechanisms now to address these dangers and we refer to the irregularities, corruption, hazing, and violence that happen in the schools. And at the end of the day, we do this for love of country. We agree, and the education sector share this too, under the principle not of in loco parentis, but as parens patriae, the state being the protector of all its citizens. But the interest of the education sector is to be able to help in this respect, not merely for body count, but in the most efficient way possible. And our roles as education institutions very clearly defined. And lastly, the attributes of the young, like high aptitude for technology for millennials and Generation Zs or the younger, may be used to supplement actual military efforts. And so it can also be an area of training, not necessarily actual military training in the grounds of the school. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Attorney Estrada.
Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
Javier? Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will only take a few minutes and make only a few points. I am a vanguard, but I would like to present an alternate view from what has already been expressed. I am a former national commander of the UP Vanguard. Also, in my civilian life, I am former president of Globe Telecom. And I've learned many of my principles from being an advanced ROTC graduate. Now, first point, sir, Mr. Chair. The proposed bill that will enable mandatory ROTC in grades 11 and 12 is only for basic ROTC. I would just like to point that out because in some of the concerns, they are actually specialized concerns already. And because this bill only amends RA 7077, it does not affect the NSTP law. And the NSTP law can continue to operate and provide for advanced ROTC training. So specialization can happen there. Now, so that point only, that is only for basic, and to understand really what the content is of this proposed basic ROTC program, we would like to invite everyone interested to review the proposed program of instruction. The program of instruction is already in place. I've seen it myself, several volumes this thick. And it talks about very strongly on values formation. Why? This is so important because when we talk about national security, we don't talk only of the military character of national security. Because national security starts with the hearts and minds of all citizens. And that is why the values formation content of the POI, which is already documented and written and ready for implementation, is very strong, very strong. It actually forms the foundation for patriotism, discipline, teamwork, leadership, and of course the details of protocols and of course also of military training. But we must understand that when we look at national security, it has to be from a holistic point of view. It is not just military. We will be missing the point if we concentrate our basic ROTC training on just the military. So my group, which is the alternate view, strongly supports the passage of the bill to mandate ROTC in grades 11 and 12. We believe that the skills and the values to be taught in mandatory ROTC apply to all citizens, not just those who will go to college. You teach discipline, teamwork, life skills like first aid, map reading. This applies to everybody. And it would be a discredit if only a few are able to benefit from ROTC training. ROTC training as being proposed is not the same as the ROTC training I got. I had 4 years of ROTC training, UP ROTC. It's not the same. It is not drills, the way it's proposed. So I really invite those who are concerned about the content of the training to review very carefully the proposed program of instruction already prepared, already ready for implemented. Now, why should it be in ROTC? Because what I see is that the ROTC is the only venue where apart from the theoretical instruction, there is already a practical exercise right away while in school. So that is an advantage of the format of ROTC. So when you talk about, let's say, theoretical subject of first aid, there is already an exercise that will enable you to find out whether you learned it or not. That is the way ROTC instruction is done. And I think we should take advantage of that kind of technique. Now, we believe that mandatory ROTC is not only necessary because it is for all citizens, but also urgent. It is urgent. We cannot wait to redevelop ROTC. We are ready to implement ROTC now, mandatory. We have the AFP, the DND, the schools are ready to implement it. But, of course, with the caveat, to do this on a phased manner. Phased manner, so that as you go along in implementing it, you learn and improve it more and more. I am aware that there is already a pilot program already prepared by the AFB, together with the Department of Education, on how to implement this in its first, I think, 100 schools. There's a lot to learn from there. And my final point, Mr. Chair, just like to clarify the case of Mark Wilson Chua. Because when I had the opportunity to chair an ROTC summit in 2015, we held an ROTC summit, and that was one of the advocacy events that we had. We had about 500 representatives from academe, ROTC, the professionals, to talk about a resolution to mandate back ROTC. And I knew one of the issues was Mark Wilson Chua. So I researched on the case of Mark Wilson Chua and was able to find his lawyer, his uncle, Attorney Eugene De Vera. And I asked him, what is the case all about? I would like to make clear that Mark Wilson Chua did not die because of training. He also did not die because of hazing. He was murdered. And why was he murdered? In my books, Mark Wilson Chua is even a hero because of his ideals as a cadet officer. He sought to expose the corruption in the UST ROTC at the time. Because of the ideals of a cadet officer. He said, this is not right. Corruption is not right. And because he was about to expose them, they killed him. So it is not a case of hazing or training laws, no. He was really murdered by those people who were the masterminds. Said, and that has been disposed of, and the court records bear this out. The perpetrators are in jail. Some of them escaped, by the way. But the mastermind, unfortunately, was the corps commander. But he is in jail. Okay, so the main point there is that he did not die because of hazing or because of training. He was murdered because he was espousing his ideals as a cadet officer that he is against corruption. And then they killed him. Yun lang, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Javier. Ma'am Semana, Director Semana, Chet, any comments? And let's go straight to the point.
Yes, po. Mr. Chair, can we just ask for our own schedule, how many more resource persons will we have?
We have four. Straight to the point na ho tayo, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, may I ask permission to read on the stand of the Commission on Higher Education as submitted last March 18, 2019 to the Senate Committee on Education, Culture and Arts, signed by our chairperson, Dr. Prospero De Vera III. The Commission support the initiative to make the preparatory citizen service training course as a requirement for enrollment in all baccalaureate degree courses or technical vocational courses and as an introductory orientation course to basic CSTC in senior high school. We find the said initiative to be in accordance with Section 13, Article 2 of the Philippine Constitution. Complementary to the proposed bill, we would like to inform the Senate Committee of the actions undertaken by the Commission in the reconstitution of ROTC as a mandatory course for the tertiary students as follows. We have created a technical working group, particularly to study on the task for the formulation of policies, standards, and guidelines, particularly on the associate degree related to national defense and security management. The TWG already drafted the proposed PSG for the Associate in National Security and Public Safety program following the guidelines in the formulation of the PSG and aligned with the curriculum towards outcome-based education. The associate degree shall be a component of a ladderized program initially in the fields of information technology, criminology, industrial security administration, engineering, and maritime programs. So meron na pong ongoing on the particular holistic curriculum development that will support this. Na-mention po kanina yung NSTP, and as I've heard our good Senator Pia Cayetano on the holistic approach and other areas of concern, we would like to inform also the Senate that the Commission is undergoing the review of the NSTP, and particularly the NSTP with the reclassification of ROTC to advanced ROTC in baccalaureate degree will pave way for the implementers, particularly the HEIs, to continue to mold our youth, satisfying the goals of the program. And particularly with the NSTP, there are three components: ROTC, which we believe will be reclassified, which will be complemented by the Literacy Training Service and Civic Welfare Training Service that will develop a more of the student ethics of service and patriotism. So we would like to inform also the body that even though we have ROTC, CWTS, and LTS, meron po tayong tinatawag na common modules of 25 hours, wherein the different components, just for the appreciation of the Senate Committee, this is divided into the physical organization and course orientation, the NSTP program itself, the RA 9163, also the citizenship training that covers also the values formation, makadiyos, makatao, makakalikasan, makabayan, and also some additional topics like the drug education, disaster risk education and management awareness, also the environmental protection and other national security concerns. Ang ibig sabihin po nito, these are the common modules that all of the freshman students should get bago po sila pumili kung pupunta sila sa track ng ROTC, CWTS, or LTS. So with that, thank you po.
Chair, just a quick comment. I really appreciate the presentation of is it Dr. Semana, because it at least shows us some depth and helps me understand. I think it also addresses a bit of Father Tabora's concern. Sana yung sa DepEd, ganun din sa mga senior high, no? Lagyan natin ng depth para alam natin yung tracks. Yung bill ko pa nga is basically, it's as if you read my bill, which I am pretty sure you didn't, because I speak of a basic security program in advance, and then you can to help the student decide on what track to follow. So dapat ganon, kasi otherwise on our part, ang naririnig lang namin is military training, and I'll take this opportunity to also respond that it was mentioned that there is a program of instruction that we should take a look at. May I just know for the record if that is the same program that that Attorney Danoy or those who are proposing, is that the same thing? Because you're asking us to take a look at it, but I'm not, they never mentioned it, so I would have no idea if you're talking about the same program. Sa inyo wala pa? O yun eh. So your recommendation is for them to take a look at it. Because on our part, syempre we just, at the very least, we need a presentation to see it. Sabi mo, ganito kakapal.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, medyo marami din kaming ibang kailangan gawin. So hindi namin agad-agad
Yes.
pwedeng tingnan yon. But apparently, the main proponents of the measure are shaking their heads. So I think
Yes.
they're the ones who should take open ba kayo to take a look at it? O, open
Yeah.
sila. O yun,
Yeah.
rest my case. Bahala na kayo and then present to us a
Yes.
summary of that.
Yes, I have to mention that, Mr. Chair, because that is an improved ROTC embodied in that new POI. And that is what will be implemented.
Nakakagulat lang kasi dahil you're, I take every word here said I give it importance. So I want to study it, but I know I don't have the time. So I just assume that you're aligned, but apparently you're not. So can you decide what
And
that
just-
program is?
Just to complete
And
the comment.
let's please not try to pass anything without even having a clearer idea what that program is. Please lang talaga.
Senator Francis, Senator Tolentino.
A while ago, Mr. Chair, I approached Father Tabora, and with due respect, I intimated to him that the aspect of ecclesiastics, religious, chaplains, it's not part of my bill. So the exchanges thereafter, Mr. Chair, should be stricken off the record because it does not refer to that to my bill. So with the concurrence of Father Tabora, I asked the Secretariat that the said exchanges be stricken off the record. But again, I reiterate for the nth time that I am very supportive of the restoration of the ROTC program.
Sir, just to clarify, and ako na magsasabi kasi kumakain pa si Senator Bato, nandun yung exception na yon sa bill ni Senator Bato, yung sa clergy.
Kayon.
Nasa
Hindi
kanya
ako
yun.
yun. Because
Alam niyo, Senator Bato is a very religious.
he's very religious. And one last comment, yung sa varsity players, siguro yung point ni Senator Pia is very apropos, considering that our objectives to have self-discipline, self-control, self-identity are all included in what a varsity player does. Pinagmamalaki natin lagi si Heidelin, nanalo ng gold, sundalo. Pinagmamalaki natin dati noon si Onyok, mga boxers natin, mga sundalo. So, magkakasama yun eh. So, yung disiplina ng isang military trainee, disiplina ng isang varsity player, hindi na nalalayo yun eh. Sumusunod ka sa platoon leader mo, sumusunod ka sa coach mo bilang isang basketball player. Kung magaling ka sa 3 points, you devoted a lot of time mag-practice sa 3-point shooting. Ganon din yung marksmanship. So again, halos pareho po yun. If we really have to inculcate self-discipline, self-direction, self-identity, hindi na po naglalaro yun, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is Attorney Rosales of PASOK.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. The Philippine Association of State Universities and Colleges supports the restorations of ROTC, but in the interest of time, we will just submit our position paper on the matter, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Attorney, for making it super brief. Mr. Raul Manuel of NUSP.
Good day to all the members of this honorable body. I am coming from the federation, the broadest federation of student councils in the country, and we thank you for this opportunity once again to be heard as representative of those students as the sector that will be affected by the possible restoration of mandatory ROTC. Before I proceed with the main points of our position, I would like to request if we may be allowed, since also present here is our members of the Student Council of De La Salle University. So if it would be all right for them also to give even just a short statement before I proceed with my points.
Okay, submit na lang in position paper sa amin. You represent them because in the interest of time, we cannot let everyone talk. No? So we'll allow them to submit to us their position paper, but you represent their position.
Okay. So we have read all the bills, all the Senate bills, and actually all the House bills also. And we are presenting the general points regarding the reimposition of mandatory ROTC. First, we would like to raise, since we also studied other related legislation, and we observed that based on RA 7077 and RA 9163, or the NSTP Act, graduates of even just basic ROTC shall form part of the citizen armed force, or also called the reserve force. So it might imply that those who finished mandatory ROTC will already be considered as citizen soldiers or reservists. And delaying the official registration of children into the reserve force will still imply the same, since they will still become reservists whether they like it or not. And also, the Children's Rights Network pointed out that the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child told the Philippine government in 2008 that military training in high school promotes militarism and is contrary to peace-building education and to the spirit of the optional protocol. So the committee actually recommended to remove military content from the training and to promote instead respect for human rights. The second point is on the grievance board, which we believe will only be a band-aid solution to the sentiment of Filipinos regarding potential abuses. First, we would like to dispute or point out the statement of the Department of National Defense that abuses are only allegations. We can actually send a copy to the Department of National Defense, the list of at least 15 cases since 1995, high-profile cases. So hindi pa kasama yung mga hindi nare-report na mga abuso. And on the part of the UP Vanguard, magkasama po tayo, pareho po nating ayaw sa mandatory ROTC sa senior high, pero hindi lang din po namin pwedeng mapalampas yung tungkol sa case ni Mark Wilson Chua. Though napanagot na yung mga individuals, pero the statement delivered earlier exposes actually not the individuals but the corrupt system that is being perpetuated by the program. So a grievance board that will handle reported cases cannot appease Filipinos, especially if the program will be administered by the DND and if the grievance board will be composed of members at tatlong sa members na yon, isa doon ay galing pa sa Department of National Defense. Third, we believe that ROTC, taken as it is false nationalism. Since sa ibang mga bansa ay meron silang mandatory training dahil at risk talaga sila sa gera at the present time. For instance, Israel is at war with, or as some groups say, inflicting terror on Palestine. South Korea is technically at war with North Korea. And in the case of the Philippines, when we approved the National Defense Act of 1935, that was because we had to defend our country from Japanese invasion. So merong ganong imminent danger na sa ngayon, sa nakikita natin, ay hindi pa naman tayo ganon ka-head-on sa pag-confront sa mga potential threats na meron tayo. And fourth point, we believe that the proposed ROTC framework overlaps with other NSTP tracks. So we see that the real motive, especially coming from the executive branch that pushes this bill, is for military training, which is designed to boost recruitment to address the low reserve manpower supply of the AFP and produce future AFP officers. With all high schools that will be required to provide offices for DND staff and DND crafting the program of instruction, the formula to achieve such objective is near completion, and it might violate international principles stating that schools and civilian spaces must not be used for military purposes. So, actually, we have a recommendation since yung mga youth naman ngayon, hindi yan walang pakialam sa ating lipunan. And if nagagadget sila, posibleng nagpo-post sila ng mga tweets, they participate in Twitter and social media rallies to amplify the different advocacies and causes that they have. So, we believe that ROTC, as handled by AFP and DND, cannot be a platform for leadership training and civic consciousness, lalo na ko yung mga students who lead and serve the people by leading different campaigns and advocacies are called brainwashed or subversives. So, hindi pwede na magamit yung ROTC para sa indoctrination, lalo na ko yung principle ay obey before you complain. So,
Sir Manuel,
ano yung...
paki-wrap up na.
Sige po. For our recommendation, actually, since nag-overlap siya dun sa ibang programs, we can take a look at the Section 11 of RA 9163, which reads na dapat ay meron tayong National Service Reserve Corps. And yung mga activities nito ay joint effort ng DND, CHED, and TESDA. So, environmental protection, disaster response, health, education, lahat po ng yan ay pwede nating ma-achieve sa current na mga batas na meron tayo. And siguro, kung mahirapan tayo na i-uphold yung ganito, such as law enforcement and rights awareness, magkakatalo na lang kung amongst the ranks of our public officials ay hindi po nag-agree doon. Lalo na if we have a senator who will say na okay lang na makalaya at may second chance yung isang rapist na mayor, habang yung mga mahihirap ay madaling tokhangin na lamang. Yun lang, maraming salamat.
Mr.
Yes,
Chair, can I react?
of course, of course.
Ang layo naman ng sinasabi mo, Mr. Kasama ba yan dito sa hearing yung comment ko na yon? Ang layo naman. That's an affront to
We
this
want human
representation.
rights as part of the curriculum of
Please,
NSTP.
layo naman,
please
oh.
let Senator Bato finish.
Ang layo naman nung, bakit ka nagkaganon? Ano na nangyari sa utak nyo? Ha? Ang layo naman.
We can send you a copy of
Ha?
our position paper.
Ang layo. At saka, I take offense on your what you said na yung ROTC is a misrepresentation of nationalism. Anong tingin mo sa amin? Anong tingin mo sa ganon? Ganon ka na mag-judge sa amin? Dinadjudge mo kami na ganon? Ha? Are you sure you are the representation, you are the true representation of the Filipino students? Ganon ba? Ilan lang yan makakaliwa dyan sa estudyante. Mas marami dyan ang gusto mag-ROTC. I must tell you frankly. Bakit ka? Ang layo ng issue mo. Just to personalin ako. Napakalayo. Dapat matuto. Kung may ROTC, dapat ikaw na estudyante ka, matuto ka, magrespeto. Kahit sa isang senador man lang na andito sa hearing na ito. Huwag mong tirahin sa ibang issue na hindi kasama dito. Ha? Huwag mong...
Honorable Chair, I would like to respond dun sa point na marami daw na gusto mag-ROTC.
Mr. Manuel, let me recognize you first before you talk. And let Senator Bato finish.
Ikaw, kung Pilipino ka, do you love your country? You answer me. You love your country? Ha? O sige, you respond.
Of course, students love our country and we have different ways to show that
Okay,
we love
you
our
love your country. Pag inatake tayo ng China dito, sinong palabanin mo dyan sa mga Chinese na yan?
Actually po,
You
yun
will
yung
call on the
tanong
NPA?
namin. Since gusto namin na ipaglaban yung ating bansa mula sa foreign invaders, pero mismo sa ating constitution, the AFP, which is tasked to preserve our integrity and national sovereignty, ay hindi natin nakikitaan ng real intent to defend our country. So wala tayong role model for
Submit
that.
mo na lang sa amin yung position paper po ninyo, kasama yung position paper ng isang mga kasama ninyo. Senator Bato, can we proceed?
Mr. Chair, may I move to strike from the records the statements of Mr. Manuel that were irrelevant and not germane to the topic, especially when he makes statements attributed to our colleagues in a statement that he made outside. And may I also request the chair to remind all our guests who are here as guests to please show respect for the members, and again, not to bring up statements, reactions that are not germane to the topic. You can make your reaction outside. The media is all there. They will listen to you. But let's stick to the course. We're all here overtime, and you need to use our valuable time to say something to the good senator. I know him so well. If you had something to say, he will talk to you. So may we remind everyone of that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Pia.
Mr. Chair, dagdagan ko lang. Ito, if he really represents the students, ganyan na talaga ang state ng mind ng mga estudyante ngayon na dapat baguhin natin. Mali po yun. Ako, if naniwala ka sa akin, mas matanda ako sa'yo. Mali yung sinasabi mo. Gusto mo lang akong tirahin sa ibang issue na hindi naman natin titakil dito. Now, since, Mr. Chair, since sinabi naman lang nitong ating resource person about nung kay Sanchez case, alam nyo, gusto lang ninyo talaga akong sirain, kaya kinukuha niyo yung sinasabi ko na gusto niyo akong butasan. Did you know na ako mismo gusto kong bitayin yung Sanchez na yan? Ha? I am for death penalty. Kung may death penalty noon, dapat nabitay na yung Sanchez na yan. Pero, kayo naman, ayaw naman yung death penalty. Ngayon, bigyan na second chance dahil na-reform na yung tao, according to the computation, eligible siya for pardon, ayaw na naman nyo. Saan na kami pupunta? Anong klaseng pag-iisip yan? Saan kami pupunta? Gusto ko death penalty, ayaw nyo. Ngayon, i-release yan dahil walang death penalty. Titirahin na naman nyo ako. Ako bang gumawa ng batas na yan? Eligible siya by operation of law. Dahil sinabi ng batas. Ganon. Respetuhin natin. May batas na ganon. Pero hindi ko kagustuhan yan. Kung akong gusto mo, samahan mo ako, bitayin natin yan? Ha? Kasi lang talaga, that goes to show kung ikaw ang representation ng estudyante ngayon, ganun na pala. Ang estudyante ngayon, kawalang disiplina. Kahit ang senador, kayang tirahin sa walang non-relevant issue dito sa ganitong forum. Ganun na pala. Kaya dapat pala talaga ibalik ang ROTC para madisiplina kayo mga estudyante na kayo. Ha? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Bato.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to seek apology for...
And let me remind Mr. Manuel, NUSP, and the rest of the groups that we invite in this committee. We invite you for the sake of fairness. Alam ko naman kung anong sasabihin ninyo eh. No, this is your third time to be part of this hearing. And alam ko na kung anong sasabihin ninyo. Pero binibigyan namin kita oportunidad magsalita para marinig kayo ng mga bagong senador natin. Pero ano namang kinalaman ni Sanchez sa ROTC? Ano namang kinalaman? Kaya this serves as a warning to your group na wag niyong dadalhin yung mga walang katuturan dito sa committee ito. Dahil sinisira niyo yung aming pagdinig at sinisayang niyo yung aming oras. And again, we're exercising fairness. Kaya bigyan niyo naman kami ng respeto. Kahit alam na namin ang sasabihin ninyo, ini-invite namin kayo. In fact, we invited all of your colleagues. So, last na ito, and next time we invite you, if ever we invite you, stick to the topic. And this serves as our warning. Again, I'm directing the committee secretary to strike off all of the comments that are not germane to the topic of ROTC.
Mr. Chair, gusto ko lang malaman nila na baka mamaya yung ini-incite lang ako na magalit para kuno i-contempt sila para may rason sila magulo do Senado. Wala akong pakialam. Umuwi ka. Hindi ka na may kukulong dito. Wala kaming pakialam sa'yo.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to apologize for the irrelevant remark that I made earlier. I was just carried away by my emotion, especially with the topic at hand. But I pledge that it will not happen in future hearings wherein we will be invited. So once again, I apologize for what I said.
We take note of their apology. And I think we've already covered all of our stakeholders right now. It's been a quite a extensive discussion. However, we still have a lot of issues that we need to go deeper into. But before I remind the DND and the DepEd for their submissions, tinatanong ko si J9, si Commodore Enriquez, ano ba yung vision natin for the ROTC? Ano ba yung nakikita nyo paano i-implement itong ROTC sa ating bansa? And I remember talking to General Rudil, and he told me to take a look at the junior ROTC in the United States so that meron tayong idea. And I just want to share to the body a video of a junior ROTC in the US. This is by the US Army. Meron sila katulad natin, may Marines, Air Force, Navy, but this is by the US Army.
Mr. Chair, can I be excused for a while?
Yes. Panoodin niyo muna ito, General.
Mag-relax muna ako at na-high blood ako. Mamaya na. Manood ka. Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I be excused, ha?
The JROTC program is a character and leadership development program. In addition to leadership, we stress the critical qualities of emotional intelligence, willpower, and service to school, community, and nation. To meet this intent, JROTC uses a wide array of methodologies, above and beyond the standard auditory, visual, and kinesthetic learning approaches we focus on in schools today. Rather, we focus on critical approaches often missed in general education classes. These critical approaches consist of practical application exercises, self-reflection and modeling, as well as facing the difficulty of leading one's peers and setting an appropriate example for one's peers, school, and community.
I would say the JROTC program just helps install a sense of patriotism into everybody, which can be good because, you know, it allows them to get involved in their country, to care about it and to work to better it, as well as teaching things that are necessary in life, like willpower, you know, doing things, discipline, things like that. And so I would say the values that it instills in people whenever they come in and then whenever they leave, they take those values with them.
So one of the stereotypes that I feel needs to be dispelled is the stereotype that JROTC is some kind of recruiting tool for the military. Unequivocally, JROTC does not recruit for the military. Some of the benefits of our program include the following. Your first year in the program satisfies the requirement for a PE credit during your high school curriculum. Additionally, as Texas high school students are required to assume an academy, 3 years in JROTC earns the Public Service Academy endorsement.
I think it works as well as it does because it really encourages us to work hard in all facets of our lives, whether it be improving our physical fitness, improving our grades, improving our leadership, improving our willpower to get the things done that we need to do so we can do the things that we want to do. There are a lot of opportunities that are open to you where you can actively develop parts of yourself that you think are insufficient or lacking. You know, if you think you need more discipline, you join the rifle team or the drill team. You'll learn all kinds of stuff about self-control doing that. If you're lacking computer knowledge, you can join the cyber team. You know, you learn all about computers, different operating systems, how to keep them safe from bad guys, and all that good stuff. Last year we had one graduate, I'm sure because of the willpower and the leadership skills she learned here in ROTC, was able to get a full ride scholarship to St. Edwards. And she was also able to start as an academic sophomore. So she'll be graduating a year early and she won't have any student loans to pay off or anything like that. Most of us don't end up joining the military. Some of us go into this knowing that we have no intention of actually joining the military, which is not true in my case, but that is the case in a lot of my classmates who are very good at what they do here, and they're also very good at what they do in the classroom or what they go on to do after high school.
We here at JROTC hope to instill in our students a sense of self-regulation, namely willpower, idealized character, or character that is virtuous, and a sense of outward thinking, or rather, commitment to something greater than oneself.
I was doing my research and I saw that video. And nung pinapanood ko nga ho yan, yung instructor parang na-remind po ako kay Colonel Frahinal eh. Para yung gupit niyo ho, Colonel. No? But itong kanilang junior ROTC is being implemented in the United States for grades 9 all the way to grades 12. So that's age 15 to age 18. No? But ang feature niyan, and it was mentioned earlier, hindi automatic enlistment to the military. No? This is purely training by the military, inculcating the same concepts, no? Citizenry, patriotism, discipline, and leadership, using their military, military techniques as a mode of teaching leadership. So this is something that we can probably study, and to have a vision on how our ROTC will be rolled out here in our country. With that, just to end
Chair,
our
before
hearing.
Before you
Yes.
recap, just a very quick response. I want to put on record for everybody who's here that that is actually a voluntary program, which I think is admirable because it can be funded better, and it can and people who will enter by choice. And I'd also like to point out that under the optional protocol, that is allowed to have schools operated by or under the control of the armed forces of the state parties. Allowed po yun. So that's something else, because when we talk of quality, when we talk of creating the best, that is a model that I would prefer to see than spreading out resources and not being able to accommodate. On that note, I am still of the view that it should be more for the collegial level. But I'm just saying the voluntary basis and the way the facilities are maintained and the level of instruction is what is very admirable about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And sorry, one last point. What I wanted to be sure to leave with our proponents, the proponents of this measure, is that we have, the data I have is that we have 3.3 million young people between the ages of 16 to 24 that are out of school. So when Attorney Danoy speaks of the 7 out of 10 who will not go to college, I don't even know if they even finished high school, and we speak of these out-of-school youth, can you look into these programs? What do we do with them? Because when you talk of discipline, when you talk of peace and order, these are the young people that have no direction, that have no guidance. They did not even have the guidance and the support to finish high school. So can we please look at them, because that's 3.3 million. You might want to explore alternative learning. You might want to explore open high school. Please consider looking at these 3.3 million young people. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pia, for the very good comments. And before we end, let me remind the DND and the DepEd to submit to the committee and prepare for the next hearing on the budget. Magkano ba talaga kailangan natin? On budget rollout, as well as budget on behalf of the parents, kung magkano gagastusin ng parents natin. The program of instructions that was mentioned by Mr. Javier earlier, we need to understand that fully. And then I also want to understand, how do you plan to roll this out? We are talking about 11,800 schools nationwide. Do you plan to roll this out in 1 year? Do you plan to roll this out in 2 years? Ano ba yung rollout plan natin? Do we have enough manpower to roll this out? We're talking about teaching 3 million students in senior high schools. So again, we need to make sure that we have the manpower in order to roll this out as smooth as possible. And then we also want to see the vision of this new and improved ROTC as articulated earlier by Senator Gordon. We need to see that, we need to understand and appreciate that. The basic question is, bakit ba mabuti at anong kabutihan ng ROTC para sa ating bansa? And I think that is a basic question that we need to answer, and that will probably serve also as the vision for this new and improved ROTC. With that in mind, please submit to us all of these requirements by August 29, which is 1 week from now. And we will advise you on the next hearing. We will furnish DepEd and DND all of the bills that were filed in this committee. There are 8 bills that are almost the same or similar in nature. We will provide you with that so that you can give us your detailed position paper. And to everyone, submit to us your detailed position paper on or before August 9 so that we can process and analyze your comments. With that, thank you very much for your time and your participation. This meeting is suspended.